actually give you some directions to look at design, right? So it's not going to, criticize you, demotivate you, or disappoint you in any sort of way. But we just wanted to, this is the right time where we can actually have a different perspective towards design because you're coming from different backgrounds. We have different concepts and we have different exposures to the world, right? And we are coming with all of that and we are looking at design. There might be different thoughts which are coming into your mind, like, why do we have to do this, or why is design important, or what is the scope of design, and a lot of things like that. But what we are trying to do is that to give you that clarity. So if you are listening, and that's in quotes, right? If you are listening, this is going to help you a lot, right? So pay a lot of attention to the conversation that is happening. A lot of important points that are going to be shared, which gives you a new perspective to look at yourself and how you want to take this forward, right? So that's why the caption here is making a better designer out of you, right? So design, even though it is design review, we are not going to criticize your design, right? We are going to look at how your design process is right now, and we might actually rework on that process. Okay, so I'm Mahesh Ravi. I'm the Chief Academic Officer of the students, and joining me is Mohit Kumar, student from the students. He is an MSc student, MSc second year student. So that is also something that I wanted to try in this talk, right? Because you are not going to hear just the perspective of a faculty or a mentor. You are going to hear it from your senior student, right? What students actually think about it, or from the experiences that they had as a student, what are the suggestions that they want to give you, right? So I wanted you to have both those perspectives, right? One is from a mentor and one is from a student, right? So it is going to go like a conversation. We will be talking to each other, but you can listen to every part, every word of this conversation is going to be critical, right? So pay a lot of attention. And as we were saying earlier, right, when you want to contribute, when you want to ask a question, when you want to interrupt or anything for that matter, you just raise your hand. We will definitely get back to you and, pull you into the conversation. Okay. So you can also start speaking. And okay, so we'll get started. And let's go to the next slide here. So what is going to happen, right? What exactly will happen in this design review is that we are not going to, I told you, the whole idea, the takeaway, once you actually attend this program, this session, and by the end of it, you will get more clarity towards these questions, right? That's what our intention was, right? We are definitely going to talk about your works because your works is going to drive our conversations and topics. We will be talking about the works. We'll be looking at your works. That is going to drive us to different topics that you should learn at this point. And a couple of questions that you might have in your mind, right? Okay. You might not have thought about it, but why do we insist that design needs to be good, right? Why do we say that you have to do good design? It's not just about any design that you can make, but design needs to be good. And by the end of the session, you will understand why is it important, right? Why is that a critical consideration before you start a project? You have to be, your goal should be that I have to make a good design, not just a design, but a good design. Now, if you decide that, okay, that you already decided is what I hope, right? Because you are in this program. So you have to take design seriously. So you have that in your mind. I have to take this as a career. I have to make a living out of this. In that case, what is that you are supposed to do at this time, right? How do you study? How do you actually plan your time? What is that you should actually take as a priority at this point when you are actually looking at design learning, right? All of these things you will have clarity at the end of the session. And the last point, is this really possible, right? So I'm not going to say, is it going to be really possible right now? But once you actually finish this session, you will get that the answer for that, right? Is this really possible? I'll give you a clue. It is really possible. But how is what we are going to talk about it. It is really possible for each one of you who are attending to make good decisions, right? It's not easy. Nobody is saying that that process is going to be easy, right? If this was an easy process, everybody in the world would be a designer, right? It's not the way, right? It's not that case. So there is going to be certain things that you need to understand, but it is definitely possible to become a good designer or to be good designs, right? So at the end of this conversation, you are going to get clarity on all of these answers, right? That is how we structure the whole thing. Now, what another thing that I want to say is that we will try to make this interactive, right? So it is going to be a conversation. Definitely, me and Mohit, we are going to share our experience. So my experience as a mentor, and his experiences as a student in learning design to all of you, right? Now, but then. You have to try and be more interactive, right? See, at any point of this conversation, you are not able to connect to that, right? You just lost the thought train, and you want to catch up to that. You can just raise your hand and ask us, right, to repeat this, or maybe can you give us another example of this? Anything that you want, you can just go ahead and ask us. Now, another thing that I wanted to say is that. Don't think that we are actually when we are opening works and all those things, right? Don't think that the feedback for that particular work doesn't belong to me because that's not my work. That is not the way that you should look at criticism, right? You can actually learn a lot from the feedback that is given to others, right? So just try to accept and listen to everybody's and see that not the way that we are going to do it, but still the moment you see a work, don't dismiss it saying that it's not my work, so I don't have to listen to it, right? Everything is about all of you, right? That is the reason we thought that we will actually not go by name. We will not actually pick every single work and review it or criticize it. That's not the way that it's going. We will just randomly be picking some work and generally pointing out the wrong directions that you took, right? uh, as a general group, right? I'm not again going to take names or anything. The general wrong decisions that you took while you were doing this particular practical project, right? So again, share your opinions, share your thoughts, anything that you have a preference, share it without any kind of fear. Just be very open. Be one good thing is that you guys don't know us, that so that you don't have to actually be afraid. These are just two random guys who's coming in and speaking to us. So please be whatever opinion that you have, just share it right away. Now, see, before we start with this topic, right, that's the first section of this conversation is going to learn to critique yourself, right? Um, this is important. So, but before we get into this, let's take a look at some of the submissions that you have, right? So I'm just going to minimize this thing and I'm go to this sheet, and this sheet collects every project that you have done for your practicals, right? So again, the name is not going to be important. You as a person is not actually important in this conversation. I'm just going to pick some random words. So let's go to design fundamentals project, and I'm just going to take some random stuff from here. Let's open that up first, right? So we have something here, design fundamentals, and let's open that up. Okay, so we have one work which is here. I'm going to go to something else. Take another work. Okay, let's come here, design fundamentals, open that up. Oh, did I replace the previous work? No, that is also
No,
there.
no, no.
Okay, so
Okay, while you're selecting, I would just brief everybody on something. So, see, whatever that we are going to talk about here, take a moment and be a little bit inclusive of like participate in this conversation. It's not supposed to be just the two of us. That is how we formatted it. But if you have an opinion, if there's anything that you feel like, okay, I disagree with this, raise your hand. Let's have a talk about that. Right.
yeah, definitely. Um, okay, that's a PSD file. Open that
With
up
that,
right now. We'll take something which is more handy. Uh, Okay. All right. I think let's
It's
take
just
a
a
look at this stuff right now, and we will come back to the rest of the works and all those things. But randomly, this is as I told you, right? This is going to be a collective feedback on what are the things that you should focus on, right? We are not going to point out your mistakes per se, right? But this could have been better, or this could have been way better when you are if you are able to focus on certain things. So for instance, let me start my conversation here.
Mhm.
I would recommend, that's the first point, right? Let us critique ourselves as the first point that we were talking about, right? So before you actually finish any design project, and the goal is basically to submit it to somebody else for a feedback, right? So for a review or for grading or anything like that, there is a goal like that. I have to do this project, submit it, and get marks for it. So even before that, even before sending it and prepping that file and sending it to somebody for review, I think it's a mandatory practice to sit and spend a very few minutes, maybe 1 or 2 minutes, to look at your work, make sure that it's error free, right? I'm not going to talk about the design concepts or anything like that, right? It doesn't have to have a design. I'm not talking about the experiments that you're doing with design and all that, right? There are no basic errors, right? Fundamental errors in design is something that you should avoid. I will give you an example here as well. So, for instance, if you go to this, right, this particular poster here that you see, I'm not talking about the design in this, but what is the spelling of badminton? Right. So
Mhm.
it's wrong, and that's the first thing that you see, right? When you are actually presenting your work to somebody, this is the first thing that you see. It is highlighted. The mistake is highlighted right there, and it's like on bold and all that stuff. And also one other thing that you have to think about, how easy it is to spell check something, right? Especially at this time, it is super easy to spell check others. You just Google it or just copy paste it to any other writing platform. It will show you that, okay, this is an error, right? Because you basically found out an image to support it, and it's super easy to find out the right spelling of that sport that this girl is playing, right? So this is something that I would advise. Like, you have to sort of do a self-critiquing, right? You just have to spend some time. Okay, are there any mistakes that I can correct before sending it to the team, the faculty, or whoever it is? Is there anything that I can correct? You have to make sure that you corrected everything that you possibly could, right? You did your best that you could do, and then you are sharing it to somebody, right? I've seen similar mistakes in a lot of cases where the title of this project is supposed to be Gamer Summit, right? Not Submit. It's Summit.
Mhm.
Summit actually, uh, a collaboration or a collective, right? They are going to like a meet. So when you actually basically change the heading like this itself, the whole function changes, right? Nobody would understand this is a poster for what, right? So these are things that you can quickly go in and correct, right? Is there anything that I'm not saying that all these designs have those kind of errors, but when you look at it, you will be able to criticize yourself and correct a lot of things. Let's take a little bit of time and critique yourself, right? So that's the first point that I wanted to mention. But what do you think, Mohit, like about this topic of like why are these mistakes happening like in design?
I'm guessing there's not enough time spent on checking that. It's maybe just type it out fast and then just be done with that. But yeah, if you are even doing that, even if you are going about and designing something in that approach, still by the end of it, you can take a little bit of time to, by the end of it, go and see maybe there could be a spelling error in something. Check it once. Right then and there, if you take that approach, if you're not considering that at any point, then it becomes a problem. That's when these things just sits there. I think, yeah, that's my view on that. Dude, you're on mute. You're on mute.
Yeah, it's not about anything else. We are not talking about any of the other design decisions here, but basic errors, right? That somebody else is going to see it. When you think of from that perspective, right? Then you definitely critique yourself. So imagine that you're going outside for a party, right?
Mhm.
Why do you have a mirror? Why do you dress in front of a mirror? Right, you don't have to do that, right? You don't have to
Yeah.
actually have a mirror in your home. If you have a mirror in your home, that is to critique yourself, right? You stand in front of the mirror and you wear your clothes, you put on your makeup, you style your hair and things like that. You're doing it because that you're critiquing yourself, right? You're making sure that everything is well dressed, you're well dressed, um, and then you go out and present yourself to the public, right? So that's the first stage that you do. I mean, this is the way that we have treated ourselves from the beginning, but when it comes to something like this, we are forgetting that, right? This is already in your muscle memory. Whenever you
Mhm.
actually go out, you dress well, and you always check yourself in front of a mirror, right? um, and we are concerned about how people actually see us, right? That concern needs to be there on how people will see your design as well, right? How they will basically see your work, right? So see, again, this is, I'm not actually blaming a single person here and all that stuff, but this is something that you have to change, right? Definitely, if somebody doesn't address this, you might repeat this in your next project, right? So I don't want that to happen. There is always room for that, right? Self critique. Take some time, as Mohit was saying. Decide a time. See, one other thing that I wanted to talk about this project, I think Mohit, you're aware about this, right? So,
Mhm.
particular project is that everybody who actually submitted the works got the equal amount of time to work on this project, right?
Yep.
So it's a 1 hour project. So in 1 hour, everybody got the same time to work on these projects. Okay, so it's not like okay, one person actually did it in 15 minutes and one person actually did it in a day and all that, and there is that difference which is showing up on the works. It's not that. Time is not a factor. It's basically 1 hour was given to everybody, and everybody basically worked on in that 1 hour of time, right? So um, in that 1 hour, when you're getting that 1 hour of time, you have to sort of plan your time saying that, okay, this is the time that I'm going to spend on working on it. Maybe you're setting like 5 minutes to correct and look through the mistakes, right? Is it matching the brief, right? Whatever they have given, and all of those things that you have to basically check. Okay.
And maybe look at it as if like you are the receiver of this. Maybe this is a
Yeah.
poster. So if you are a viewer, then how are you going to interpret that information? Right then and there, and that's when
Exactly.
you're going to read everything. Is everything clear? So
Yeah.
one of those again approaches or one of the goals that you should have while you're designing by the end of it, just as a
Exactly.
wrap-up check.
So again, the same that whole thing, right? If you're putting yourself in the shoes of who is going to read this poster, right, and say that will I understand what is happening, right? So if I look at this poster, will I understand what exactly is happening? So here, the info, I am not very sure that it's very clear, the action points and all that stuff. So, what I could gather here is that it's a badminton contest which is happening at Stalini Ground, Bangalore at January 10th and reporting at 7 a.m. So, it's basically there, but do you have to register for it, or can you just walk into this section? Who is it for? I mean, who needs to participate in this particular event, right?
Mhm.
Um, Nothing is actually there. So is you have to think about like, okay, if this is the way, and people might not understand when you say this in this style also, because there is no sport that I'm aware that it's called badminton, right? Badminton. So people will be wondering that about that mistake as well, right? So you have to be a little more serious about the whole concept, right? Now, this is another game. I think this is a software, a gaming event.
It's
Uh,
a place summit.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it looks like that. Okay, gaming in Bangalore, India. Where okay. So let us take a look at a couple of other works in here. So let's go to principles of layout, right? So the first stage, the first point that we wanted to basically share is learn to critique yourself, right? So spend some time before you are submitting your work. In future also, when you're putting it on your portfolio, when you're putting it on an exam, when you're doing it for an exam and all those things, make sure that you're checking what you have done is correct, right? So learn to critique yourself. Always consider the possibility that you can make mistakes, right? That is definitely there, right? We are, all of us, we can make mistakes, right? So you need to critique ourselves. So even before putting this presentation together, we had to discuss, right, and make sure that we are covering all the essential points. Um, I have been doing this for a long time, but still I was preparing for it. I made sure that the last minute before this goes live, everything is in order, right? There are no spelling errors, there are no grammatic errors in this. I just made sure that a couple of times before going live with this whole session, right? So that should actually be there. I mean, no matter how big you are, how old you get, you might have to bring that into your process of things, right? Before you before you say that, okay, it's all done, you have to learn, or you have to just spend a few moments of that to critique your work, whatever you have done, right? Just if you can correct something at the last minute, correct it and share it, because others are going to judge you only based on that work. They don't care how much time that you have spent. They don't care about your background. They care about the cognitive load that you are carrying, right? It is only about that work. We just looked at that work and we criticized you. I don't know the student. We None of us know the student who actually did the work, but the criticization was happening only on that particular, based on that work, right? All right. So let's go back to this. Let's take a look at a couple of other projects, right? So here you might have understood the nature of this. Let's review. We are just randomly looking at works. We are not focusing on who it is. Principles of layout, I guess. Okay. Just close this. That's mock-up. Um, let's take this. Um, go in. This is a design fundamental document. How is this in principles of layout? I don't know. Um, and something about what do you think generally about the collection of works that we are seeing right now?
Um, yeah, definitely could have been better. A lot of things going on. Yeah. Again, as a viewer, if you're seeing something, you gotta see the fact like, okay, is this something that's going to be appealing for me? Let's say this pizza we love. It's about food, but by looking at that, do you feel like you're going to go and order something or maybe make something out of this? Maybe it's a recipe thing. The longest pizza, the biggest pizza, and the baking thing that they're talking about. So, are you at all interested in going and figuring out or just investigating the fact, okay, what is this all going to be about? The layout as a feature, that's what it needs to do. It needs to pull you in, and I think that's the one thing that's missing in a lot of these submissions. This is pretty decent. I think the previous one, just the image, and yeah, it's very clear on what it's trying to show. But yes, your exposure is something that's going to give you and push you in a direction where you can be like, okay, there are other possibilities to how you can make it more engaging, because this is technically correct, but it's not the most engaging thing that could have been out there. The same thing with, I think, even this with that. Okay, I'm not so sure what the other one was. The three, yeah, this one, the other one. That's it.
No, 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 that's not.
Three unbearable food facts that will blow your mind. Okay. Um, See, as a viewer, again, that when you're reading that, I feel like that lettering and that copy had a lot more enthusiasm that it was asking for. But when I see that, I don't see it in the visuals. That's again happening because the layout was not managed well.
Yeah.
The words are saying like, okay, it's unbelievable. Your mind would be blown and all of that. But the images are not saying that. The layout isn't saying that.
Yes. See, fundamentally, what I feel, I agree with what Mohit was saying here, right? The fundamental issue here is the layout, how they planned the layout for something like this. So it is very important because it is actually coming under the topic principles of layout itself, right?
Mm-mm.
So, what are the fundamental principles of layout? That is something that you have to understand and implement and showcase it. So, say when we are conducting an exam for principles of layout, right? The goal of the mentor is to evaluate how much you know about layout. Right. So, as a student, your goal is to showcase how much you know about layout. Ignore all the other things, right? So, here, when you are basically designing or writing an exam for principles of layout, your skill in illustration doesn't matter, right? Your skill in image editing doesn't matter. It's basically how you can manage a layout, right? And this is very, very important because everything in graphic design actually is rooted in layout design. Good layout actually creates good design, right? So if you look at all these designs, again, generally, I'm talking about all the designs that you can see here. The problem is with the layout, right? It's not, if you take individually every element of this, it might actually work. So for instance, this is a pretty decent imagery, right?
Mm.
This is a decent image. The typography that is used in here could be decent, right? But when you are putting it all together, and that's what happens in a layout, right? When you're mixing it all together, you are not actually thinking about how it actually works together. I always say this example, right? Layout is treated like you take all these elements, right? You take some images, you are taking the heading, you are taking the graphics, you are taking typography and colors, and you're putting it into this uh, peri peri French fries bag, right? So you put it all there, you just fold it, and you just do, and then the product is done, right? The layout is done. That is not how you should actually think about layout, right? So if you might be taking all good elements, like the typography could be good, the images could be good. But if you're just randomly putting it into one bag, and that if you're considering that bag to be your design, right, it is not going to work like that. You have to carefully place them together. So if you look at this, everything is actually everywhere. It's crowded, right? Think about this whole layout, right? The
Mm-mm.
size doesn't actually connect with each other. There is no breathing space that we can actually, we don't feel comfortable looking at the whole thing, right? If you're not comfortable looking at a layout, they will skip that layout. People will definitely skip it. Look at this. There is a lot of crowd that is actually happening, right? And look at the hierarchy of the whole thing that you're arranging. There is the title which is happening here, and there is a subheading, and there is the body text. I don't see any hierarchy between these things, right?
Mm-mm.
It's sort of like very similar in size in terms of the impact that they're making, the spacing that they are doing, and all that. It actually does the same thing. So now another thing that you have to think of is that this is one page. I guess this is one page, right? So when this is actually in action, when somebody prints it out and sees this, there is a page which is full of these, right? Big ass text and then an image and then all these things which is crowding the entire page, right? So it makes people very uncomfortable to read. And I think here the one that we were talking about is a decent way to approach design here, right? So there is enough breathing space. So if you look at all these other designs, one that actually lacks in all these designs are like, there is no breathing space to walk around and all that stuff. But here that is there. There is a clear hierarchy that is used by the imagery. And then once you're coming here, you can see a good, a decent hierarchy that is happening. And there is enough breathing space to read this content also. And the way that the text is not actually filling the whole space, it's sort of like, aligned, sort of positioned towards the left of the composition, right? It makes it easier to read the text as well. Your eye scanning is sort of like reduced. But again, as Mohit was saying, there is nothing dramatic happening here that will stop you and read this article, right? uh, the hierarchy or the personality that you are going to add with these elements, right? Rediscovering local delights. um, it actually feels like you are not that delighted about it, but I was asked to actually talk about it, right? Rediscovering local delights doesn't actually communicate to people like that, right? So it's a very delightful sentence, but it doesn't. Maybe the text size needed to be like slightly bigger, right? Maybe a capital, all caps letter would have worked. A slightly more contrast between this body text and this would have created that sort of drama in it, right?
And yeah, whenever we are talking about type personalities, it's don't
Yeah,
think of it like change the typeface. You don't have to even do that. Just with the typeface
exactly.
that you have here, you can, with enough contrast,
You can
just
change
make
it,
it something. You can
definitely,
change the whole
definitely.
personality here.
Just maybe, yeah, scaling it up changes the personality. Converting this to uppercase changes the personality, right? Splitting this into three different lines changes the personality of the type, right? So it is not, yeah, as I said, it is not about changing the font immediately, right? So if I change the font, will this work? That is not the question. It's basically changing how it actually looks to people, right? They don't actually know what font you are using. They don't know what is a typeface, right? But the way that it is going to impact a viewer's mind is going to be, different. The way that you use this. So this is not going to make the impact that you need from an article like this. Right. It is a very subtle thing, and it just goes on like that. So if you don't want to make an impact, if you're hiding a message and all that stuff, this is a really perfect layout, right? So in terms of this, I mean, this has more discipline in layout, definitely. When you compare it to
Yeah.
articles, this this has more discipline in handling every element, but it doesn't create the drama that is required for it, right? That's the main thing. So now, at this topic, right, I just wanted to, and here also, I think this is one part of that design. Yeah, I think this,
Oh, okay.
right.
Like,
So this is two page, one spread, and it's divided into two, right?
okay.
So here again, the same problem, right? The choices that we are basically making, right? The typography of just stays it. The spacing. We'll come back to typography in a little bit. We are focusing on the layout part right now, but still, the whole balance of this thing, right? So think about for delivery this text. How is it connected to this or order now, right? When it comes to this side, right? Just I'm not able to see the whole picture just as one. I don't think there is something which
Is that's the
actually,
third one? So is that
no,
no?
it
It
is
is.
one.
We kind of have to.
No,
Okay.
it's sliced it
Uh,
into two options, I guess. But still, I mean, if you
yeah.
look at
Kind of.
right,
Yeah.
so this is, yeah, you might be able to get the idea, right? Um, there are a lot of elements the same way that we were talking about. There are elements into this design, but it doesn't feel like nothing is connected, right? It creates so much of disparity in spreading using these elements, right? So it might not be a good idea. Even the colors that actually goes with it, it doesn't connect to each other, right? So that cohesive, that is again something that you learn in principles of layout, right? Layout design is basically when you arrange things together, right? So when you're putting these things together, there needs to be a connection that you have to sort of make, right? Things that should communicate with each other. Things shouldn't actually sort of fight with each other when you are creating a design, right? So again, there are the major problems are basically the typography. So we will come back to typography in other design, but in terms of layout, because it's a principles of layout, So these are the things that I want to say. Now, another interesting point that I wanted to mention in this, right? So that the second point that actually comes to this, right? So this is how, or maybe I think you can see the screen, right?
We can.
You're arranging a room. So think of it like when you're designing something, right? When you're designing anything, you're arranging a room, right? You're taking all the furnitures and you're setting it up in a room. Think of it in that way, not the peri bag thing, right? You're just putting trash. Then you can mix everything. I think even in trash, you need to separate your wet and dry waste, right? So think of it like you're arranging a room. You have a room and you have a lot of furnitures coming in, and you have to place it functionally in the room. What is your thought process, right? You will look at the whole room. You will look for doors. You will look for windows. You will look for positions of things, and you are going to arrange everything in connection to another object. I mean, if you're not able to understand this concept, let me show you an interesting, and this is something that I randomly stumbled upon yesterday when I was looking for layout design, right?
Okay.
So this is a pretty cool
Oh
site.
yeah.
It's called Plan Creator, right?
Mhm.
So imagine this is the room that you have. This is a room that you have, and then you are basically, and there are doors and windows to this, right? So let's say I am going to just drag a window right in here, and there is going to be a door, which is going to be, let's say, here, and there is another door. There is definitely an exit, right? So I'm going to take a double door. I'm going to keep it right here. Okay. So think of it like this is what you have, right? So people are going to enter through this door and they have a window, and I will put one more window. I think no, one window is enough. And they are going to exit through this to the next room. Let's say that, right? Think of this as a design, right? So, and you have so many elements here as well, right? So you have, let's go and let me take a couple of stuff. We have we have a sofa. We
That's a big
have
sofa.
that. The
That's a
room is
big
that
sofa.
big, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
the room is only that. Yeah. So we have a TV and we have a speaker. Let's take a chair. I think this a single unit chair, and I might want a table also. So say a table. Just gonna drag it uh, right here, and maybe yeah, I think that's fine. But this is pretty cool, right? Just try it out. It's a very ASMR-ish experience. Okay, so let's say that, right? This is what we have, right? So you arranged all the elements in the room, right? You put everything in the room. Is this the way that you think about a room, right? Let's say you're renting this space, right? And you have this much furniture. Do you actually leave the furniture like this, or do you connect it with something? Right, you definitely will try to connect it with something, right? So for
Mhm.
instance, if I have to keep these furnitures in this room, I have to think of like, okay, if I take this TV and I put it right here, will it work? Because there is a window right there, right? So it doesn't work, right? You have to keep thinking that okay, that's a window where the light is going to come from. So I cannot keep a TV or sorry, an element right there. So I might have to change that. Let's say, let me just select that. And I might have to move this. So let me just move it, bring it here, right? So I'm just going to rotate this and I will keep it right here so that people can watch TV. So imagine I'm going to do this like this. Now this is a sofa, and if it's facing this side, nobody will be able to watch the TV, right? So I have to sort of arrange the furniture right now based on the position of the TV. I can put it like this, but right, will it work? Because people are going to enter via this. It's not going to work, right? So I have to move the sofa based on where the door is. Now, maybe somewhere here. Then maybe I have to move the TV a little to this side. I can put the table right here. I can put another chair, right? So there is another chair right here. Maybe I can put it here, or I can actually think of putting it right here. Okay, so that people, there is a standalone chair where the host can sit, and the speaker thing, I can move it here next to the TV. Right. So now if you look at this, there is space for people to come in, there is space for light to come in, there are comfortable spaces where these people can sit. They can get through this, they can get through this, they can get through this, and all that stuff. They can all use the table which is there. You can put your food there, you can eat and all that stuff while they are watching TV, right? So this is how you basically do this, right? So and if you want to read, yeah, that what Abhilash was saying,
Yeah, yeah. He's a
you will be able to see this in three dimension, and you will be able to understand how this room actually looks, right? So it's a very small room, but in that small room also we sort of arranged it in the way that it's a functional spatial arrangement, right? People will be able to walk in, they will be able to comfortably sit in, have a conversation, they will be able to watch TV, and they will be able to leave the room. And see, let's say that it is, we have basically other elements coming in, let's say more stuff, right? Say other furnitures coming in. Then also we are sort of looking at the entry and the exit point, and we are arranging stuff. We will not randomly close these stuff because we have too many items, right? So this is how you have to think about graphic design, right? You are not putting everything into a bag. You are basically arranging a room, right? You are just putting stuff there and making sure that everything connects to each other, right? So that is where the hierarchy is going to come into picture, right? What is the most important thing in that room, right? Is it accessible for everybody? Can everybody see this, right? Can everybody come to that position where they are supposed to? So if I just do this, let's say, how do you switch back to three? I think you can. So if I just take this and if I put it like this, right? See, it is. It's not a practical design. Nobody, if people might be able to come here and sit on this, but there is no point to that. I mean, they will be staring at the wall, right, all the time. There's no point to the whole thing. Now, the same thing if I'm doing this, right, just move it like this, the functionality is reduced. Maybe if they have want to sit, they want to jump over this and come here and sit, right? So even if it's facing this direction, and if I am keeping it very close to this wall to save space, the function of this is compromised. It's not completely taken away, but it's compromised because people will be able to come and sit only from this direction. Nobody will be able to come and sit directly to this space, this side. It is only accessible via this direction, right? So for graphic design also, now you think about it like that, right? So think about graphic design as a room, right? They are coming in. Is there a space for people to? So let's say if they are coming via this direction, think of it like a room. Is there a way that they can go to this area? You blocked everything. You pretty much blocked everything, right? The there is no, actually there's no way that your eye can easily travel to this area. Normally, all of us basically read from top to bottom, right? If somebody is actually starting from here, they are stuck here. They don't know. They might have to walk in through the salad to come here, right? And trust me, our brain doesn't do that very easily, right? Uh, they need space. The brain actually needs negative space to travel, right? It doesn't travel through the space. So let's say I will tell you an example. Let's say imagine that you want to skip pages, right? You're reading a book and you want to skip pages. Do you just skip pages, or do you actually scan your eyes through all the text in each page before you skipping it?
he's kind
You don't, right? You don't scan through each of the pages before skipping it. You basically skip it, right? So I want to go to page number 10 and start reading something. You just quickly go to page number 10, right? You can scan through it. You don't actually have to go through page 1, 2, 3. 4 5 to go to page number 10, right? So that is accessibility. There is a way that people could, and that is how people are navigating through stuff, right? So they don't have to go through this. They need directions, and that's the reason we said that this particular design that we saw, right, there was enough space for people to access this design. Right. It's working in that sort of way. There is discipline in here, so they can actually walk through it. They could actually see all these stuff, right? So the first thing that you might actually want to try here is that think of it like a room, right? Think of every element that you have here as furnitures, functional furnitures, then try to position them, right? Try to arrange it. Okay, this is the room space that you have, and I want these to be arranged in here, right? So, how will people actually walk through it? Will your eyes scan through that data, right? How will they reach to the next point quickly? They shouldn't be confused on what to do in a page. When you are giving a lot of information and when you are actually scaling up to fill a space, people don't know what to do in that space, right? There should be clear negative spaces to walk around, right? If it is a crowded space, you will not be able to walk through it. It's as simple as that, right? So start thinking a graphic design in terms of this, right? So this is a room that I have to sort of arrange it. So I just wanted to ask a question to Mohit here. So let's say, what is your process of setting up layouts whenever you're getting a project? It could be a student project, or what is your process of setting up a layout? What are the thoughts that comes to your mind?
First thing is like, what is it that it's supposed to do? What is the purpose of whatever that I'm making? Let's say the example that you had, the pizza we love. Can you go back to that? Oh, you close it. That's fine. That's fine. But let's say that is one of the purpose. You want to push out a flyer, which is kind of sort of saying that we make the pizzas that everybody loves. So I'd be like, okay, this is the thing that I need to highlight. That's the message that I need to get across to somebody, even if they are further away from wherever the design is displayed. So I'll put an emphasis on that and make sure at any level stage, maybe you're looking at it from this distance or maybe much further away, you're able to make out like, okay, what is this about? Or maybe it's interesting enough that you go and try to figure out what that is going to be about. That's the first approach. Next is the other information. Let's say, why is it that people love our pizzas? So anybody who's interested from a distance and now they are getting closer to see, okay, what is this actually about? Next information would be maybe a little bit of reviews, like, okay, this is what people have said about this. This is why they love it. That is the second information. So that is what I want to highlight. So they need to see that people love pizzas, and then why is it? That's the second travel. So we are entering that room. We are seeing that, okay, people love pizzas. Why do they love it? You go to the counter and then you figure out, okay, you're talking to people. Okay, why are you here? Why is this so big of a line? Oh, I love it because of all of these reasons. So within that layout, you're showing that. And then if you're even more interested, now you've eaten the pizza and you're like, fuck, what are they? How are they making this? Now that's the last information. It doesn't have to be emphasized, but it's there for somebody who is interested enough for it. For those three phases, accordingly, you kind of make a layout. I mean, that's just one example. It's going to change contextually what is it that you're making. But yeah, that in all, that's how I would approach it.
Got it, got it. That's a really interesting way to put how you work on hierarchy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so hierarchy is really, really important on what order information needs to be shared with people, right? So all that information is there in when you're starting, especially with static graphic design, right? Every information is there. When they're already entering the room, everything is actually there. But what do you want people to see first, right? Then you are attracting them into that room, then you are telling them the other information, right? So you're here because you are you got interested with the whole thing. Now these are the things that you do with it, and these are the variations that you can have. And finally, before they exit, they can see what to do next, right? So what is that you're supposed to do? You can make the pizza at home, you can order the pizza, if you want. So it that is the way that you can actually arrange hierarchy, right? So arrange any element in this, like what is the order that you want people to read your understand your information. If it's definitely a mobile design, we can sort of distribute information over a period of time. Maybe you're showing the first title, then after the transition, it comes the next article and all that stuff. But that's not always possible in a page, right? The page is static. Every information is already there. So with your hierarchical decisions, you are making users navigate through that direction, and that's a very interesting point that Mohit was saying, like how to arrange, how to work on hierarchy, like telling a story to someone, right? So how to make them interested first. If you put the boring information out there, they will just immediately walk out of the room, right? They will not
Mhm.
stay. And if they feel that the room is so crowded, they will walk out. If they feel that the room is so ugly, they will walk out. So we have to make them comfortable in the room. That is our job as a designer, right? We have to. So when I'm saying room, we are not talking about interior design. We are talking about graphic design. But I was thinking, like metaphorically, if you start
Mhm.
thinking any graphic design project as you're setting up a room, right? Because rooms are always set towards function, and when it comes to graphic design, we forget that somehow, right? We don't think about the function at the end. We're just randomly arranging stuff, right? But you have to think about the function of every design that you're working on, right? So that will help you give more directions, right? Now, another thing that I wanted to just mention quickly when we are in this project itself, right? So, um, let's say we'll take like some random projects here again. Something that we haven't taken earlier.
Mhm.
Okay, this is again design fundamentals. It is going to design fundamentals. I think pretty much all the links are going to design fundamentals there. Okay, I think yeah, just let's have this these three examples here for the next topic that we are going to discuss about, right? Which is a which is a very important one as a designer, right? Resist your instincts when it comes to typography, right? So typography is very critical in graphic design. I would say that the most important element that takes a lot of effort to master typography. So it requires a lot of work, right? So there is not something which will instinctively come to any of us, right? So even if it's me or it's Mohit, there was a lot of work that we had to do to actually come to this level where we can control our typography, right? So it's not easy. It will not come to you naturally. So do not trust your instincts when you're choosing fonts in your design, right? Because there is again a chance that your instincts might be wrong, right? So when you're choosing typography, there is a tendency. I think I had this discussion with Mohit earlier also. Tendency that you try to assign, you force a personality into the typography, right?
Mhm.
Which you don't have to do that, right? The typography personality is something that what do you say? It makes it right. It makes it by itself. We don't have to force a personality into the typeface, right? If you force it, let's say, I will tell you a very simple example, right? When if I'm asking all these students to create a horror film poster, right? A horror film poster, one of the first decisions that you will do is you will go to type a font that is scary, right? You will actually look for a scary font, something with a brush thing, something with
Mhm.
spikes on all that stuff, something with eroded textures on it, something with grunge on the typography itself, and you will basically put it there, right? Thinking that okay, that I have done my part, and now it's a horror poster. That's not how it works, right? So if you just go and look at any horror film posters which came out in the past, let's say 10 years, right? You will notice that typography is not actually scary, right? The image might not be scary. The the sub information, the shapes that is used in that poster might not be scary. The mix of it, the right balance of all these elements together creates a fear in your mind. That is how the design actually works. So when you're forcing personality into typefaces, bad things might happen, right? I think we had that discussion, right? You don't have to think about that. See, as again, Mohit was sort of saying it in the previous example, right? uh, to change or to create a personality or different personality in typeface, you don't have to change the font. You don't have to completely change the typeface. You can just create personalities by making it behave in a certain way. So, for instance, if I select this typeface that you see here, and if I make it italics, the personality changed right now, right?
Feels more sporty now.
Yeah,
Feels more sporty now.
feels more sporty. I mean, it's like I am actually talking to you in a very lighter tone, right?
Yeah.
Right, but I'm not. I'm funny enough. So I
Yet
have to
also.
do it like this, right? So it created a personality there. I don't have to sort of like, I have to say that, see, I have to make it very funny. Like, I don't have to do it like
No,
this.
fuck no.
This is where design goes wrong, right? I force the personality thinking that, okay, I want to be funny. So I will use a funny font there, right? Think about it. Let's say you want to sort of like make an impression on somebody, and you go and tell them that I'm a very funny person. The impression got ruined immediately. You have to generate that, right? So you have to say funny things and then make them believe that you're a funny guy. When you actually force typography to have those sort of like things like this, I'm using a funny. So what I'm saying is funny. This negates the actual job. It actually makes it worse, right? So it's just like the same thing. You go to somebody and say that, I'm a very smart person, right? If you say that, it looks like a smart person, right? So this is not how you should actually approach typography, right? And for anything, like see, if I do this, it changed, right? The personality basically changed. I am sort of forcing this to you right now,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? I'm forcing this idea, resist your instincts when it comes to typography. If somebody reads this right now, I am forcing this because it's much bolder, it's very tight, and all those things. If I'm doing this, this is a suggestion right now. And if I do this, it's much more casual, right? If you want, you can do this, try it. I'm not forcing you to do anything. If you want, you do it, you do it. Now, if I do this, right, again, right, I'm sort of forcing that. See, I'm a really important person, so you have to listen to what I'm saying. Right? If I say that, you will not listen to me. Right. So I underlined everything that I'm saying, that whatever I'm saying is super important to you. Right. I can do,
Just cross it out. Oh, there's another cross one
yeah,
thing.
yeah, maybe I can actually do that also. Right. Resist your instinct when it comes to typography. Uh, See, now there are two meanings to it. I basically said that, okay, I said that this is the right decision, but then on afterthought, I said that, you don't have to do this, right? Or I know that this is not what you should do, right? So do the exact opposite of this, right? By just doing something, we didn't change the typeface at all, right? We didn't change the typography in the typeface itself. How you actually treat the typography is the important thing. It's not about choosing or forcing a personality into the typeface, right? So this is something that we can basically see in a lot of your designs, right? Your typography decisions needs to be really, really improved, right? Because that designs, that is the most critical element to master, and that actually drives your entire design future, right? So here also there are the other problems that we spoke about, which is being carried here as well. The layout being too crowded, but look at the typography and how typography is actually used in this, right? So here, something of a personality that this doesn't deserve is forced into it, right? Eat less from the box and eat more from the earth. Um, could be like a quote or something like that. It could be a message, whatever that is. But the personality is forced into it. It doesn't go with that. It doesn't feel earthy. It doesn't feel organic. It doesn't convey the same vibe of the quote, right? Because we try to force a personality that we thought is better, right? So that's our instinctual action, right? And here again, right, this particular typography decision, right? Food, then the four is actually in capital letters, and then thoughts is coming like this, right? Um, the whole typography choice that actually went into this, right, requires a lot more improvement. So, yeah, what is your thoughts on typography here? Like all these things that we are seeing, I think this actually uses a
It's yeah,
decent,
it
yeah,
does. Yeah.
typography choices, right? So we can see some interesting play that is happening here in the cakes thing. Um, love what you eat. Okay. The
That's
art of
actually
cake
decent.
making.
That's decent in terms of
Yeah, this
typography and the
is
choices.
in terms of typography choices, it is in. But one thing that I'm not very sure about is aligning or maybe flushing everything to the right in here, because you can actually see a lot of orphans here. Right, see accessible to people. Um, I don't know why that decision was made here. Maybe to balance the whole thing, but I
I
think
think
it would have worked better if it was left aligned, right?
it could have been, but I think it still would work in the right flush if the whole space was a little bit more compact. Then it's
Yes.
like, okay, everything is going into the right.
Otherwise, what was happening is that we are reading like this. We
Yeah.
reached in it. We went
And then
all
we
the way.
have to go that way. Yeah.
Yeah. There is nothing here, and then we have to travel all the way here through blank space to read this. By that time, this connection might be lost. Right. So that will happen here as well. So we basically reach here, then we are looking for the next beginning at here, but we cannot find anything. We have to go till here to read this. Right. So if it was shorter text, and as you said, if the spacing was much more
Yeah.
compact, right, it would have worked. But right now it doesn't, the arrangement here. But the type choice
Time
for me,
choice is really good. That is
it
good.
is really good. I mean, the pairing of the whole thing and all that. The, there is a bold typography which is happening here, and then it is paired with a script. I'm not very sure about these two making an impact, right? So, love what you eat, the art of cake making, right? If this was sort of like reversed, I'm just thinking like, if this hierarchy was
Oh,
sort of like, because this is the title, I think, right? I'm not sure about this pairing that is happening here. Maybe the space was a little more closer, right? So, love what you eat and art of cake making came right next to it. And this space was before the article started, it would have been better. But right now, the space seems a little odd. Um,
it's again, we are talking about that whole room and when we are
the room
walking
thing,
in,
yeah, exactly,
is it
exactly. So
actually making sense?
this is actually like a chair, and this is the footrest of that chair. But you kept it slightly far away from the main chair. People cannot actually put their foot into that chair, right?
I think what they
So
were trying to
this
do
is
was
not
with
a
the main
stand.
article, they wanted to pair it.
Yeah,
They wanted to pair it with the main article. That's what I feel.
they wanted to pair it with the main article, but then this actually doesn't.
Yeah, that space, if that was the thing, that
The
space
space,
needed to
yeah,
be
yeah,
more.
yeah.
It's not that evident. It's kind of hanging in between. Like, where does it want to go?
It's hanging in between. We are confused whether it connects to this or this, right? So that slight decisions will actually make a huge impact. Otherwise, which is a very decent design, right? So some slight issues there. Um, Definitely, this can be much better, but we are not talking about that right now. But overall, the layout and the typography part of this is really
Let's manage well,
good,
yeah.
and yeah, it is really good. Um, I like the image selection as well. It works with
It does. It
right.
does.
Okay, okay. So yeah. So any other
It's
thoughts that you have regarding typography choices, or again, how would they how should they approach typography?
I think again, just sit and feel like, okay, whatever elements that I'm using, is it actually contributing to the message that you want to convey? What is it that you want people to feel when they are looking at this kind of a design? it's a food for thought. So, do you want to create an intrigue? Do you want people to feel hungry by looking at that? Do you want to create that? Okay, I think the earthy feeling is when we are reading it, I think that was the purpose. That's what you wanted to get out there. But those elements are not saying that. Visually, it's not saying that. When you read it, it makes a little bit of sense. Other thing is like the food for the. I don't know why FOR is in capital. What was the purpose there? See, you're making any kind of a decision, you don't do it just for the place of like, I will create a differentiation, but if it doesn't have a purpose, it'll keep the viewer thinking, okay, what was this all about? Because at the end of the day,
Yes,
somebody is
yes,
walking
true.
and they are trying to make sense of this, right?
So
So,
I kept
I,
thinking for a while, like, why is there a story behind the four, right?
yeah, yeah.
So what is the story behind the four? And it kept me thinking for a while, and it sort of distracted me from the actual message because
True.
this was sort of like a deviation, right? So
Mm-mm,
I deviated from the whole context, and I was thinking about why was the four capital? It is not the food or the thought; it is basically the four. So is there some relevance to the four? Is what I kept thinking, right? So
mm.
if you're not using that sort of like the personality in the right spaces, then it is going to be a problem.
I think other
It
thing,
is like
uh-huh.
making a painting which looks like a chair, and people go there to sit there, and then it's not a chair; it's a painting.
You,
So it's not a functional four, right? It's just a four. But then I would have thought like, okay, if you're making food and thoughts capital, and four was like lowercase, it would have made more, right? Food and thoughts. Four is just an operator in between these two things. But that operator is highlighted here. I don't understand the full thing of it, right?
yeah, I think that might have come in. Again, I'm presuming that would have been the thought behind it. It's that, okay, there's usually food for thought that people do. I'm just going to
Yeah,
reverse it just to create that differentiation. But okay,
maybe.
it's good. Like, okay, you are trying to be different, but also see that is it relevant to what you're trying to put out there? Is it actually communicating the message? That also needs to be fulfilled. The purpose is not just to be different, it's to be relevant too.
True.
Right.
Yeah,
I think the similar thing with the typefaces and all, it's the same issue that we have. The crowdedness that we talked about is here.
yeah.
It's you don't know where to go, where to stop.
There is no type hierarchy also. I mean, like, what is
Uh-uh.
the heading here, right? Where should we start? So should we actually read this first? Should we read these points first, and then we'll go back here? It's unclear, right? There is we are not in any direction, right? And there is no space for them to actually go. Um, these kind of typography arrangements, right? Think about how difficult it will be to read this. Um,
Mm-mm.
you have to read one portion here, then go over this image to read the next part of it, right? So this is again something that instinctually you might think that this is a good idea, right? I will actually put a shape and then wrap the type around it. But when people are reading it, they are not going to think about your creative design. They are going to think about how difficult it is. Like, where did I stop reading here, right? And I don't understand where it actually ends, right? So they are going to think about it as a graphic design, right? They are going to, if it's not functional, if it's not comfortable, they will not actually engage with it, right? They will just stop using it right then and there, right? So it is very important that the same point that we wanted to say that it's especially when it comes to typography, right? So it is when you're a beginner in graphic design, it's good to resist pretty much every instinct that you have, right? But when it comes to typography, definitely resist it, right? Whatever you think is good typography might be bad typography because this is basically coming from our own experiences and experiences us being a mentor or maybe a student and all that. This is coming from that thought, right? Initially, our instincts might you know give you the wrong information and we might use it and something that you might like we think that okay, this is actually good, right? But it's not about us in design, right? It's about the others. Think about it like that, right? So when we are designing something, it is going to be used by somebody else, right? right? If we are designing something for ourselves and we are going to look at it later, it is fine. You can do whatever we want. But it is for others. Others are going to use it and say that it's good or bad, right? So we have to keep that in mind when it comes to typography, right? Now, another thing that I wanted to say, like something that I looked at, and this could be an example for that, right? See, when you're choosing images in your design, right? And I think we also had a discussion related to this. Whenever imagery comes into graphic design, right, the image takes the upper hand quickly, right? And that by default that happens when you put an image into a graphic design. That is the most attentive element. So if you're putting something, you know, uh, against it, like say everything needs to fight to get attention against an image. The moment you have image in your design, all the other elements, it could be colors, it could be typography, it could be shapes, everything need to fight to get the attention that image is getting, right? That's by default, it is like that. But sometimes what I feel is that designers will just let go. The moment you have an image there, they will forget about all the other elements, right? So here I can see that evidently. I mean, the image drove the entire design, right? So it's the typography, where to put it, what color to use, and all that is coming from this image. The image drove the directions, right? So if you go to, let's say, I'm going to look at some other works. Let's go to this one, the raster design thing. Okay. So what do you feel about that, Mohit? Like how because I'm particularly asking, and I'm interested about your thoughts on this, because the way that you use images in your photography, in your design projects, right? You have such control over imagery, right? So you don't let image take over, right? I mean, like you have control over the image, right? You basically decide and you sort of create compositions where image has an equal role with just other elements. You treat images just as an element, right? Like typography or like shapes and all that, you use it. So, how did you come up with that sort of habit, and what is your process of that?
I think if you're talking about how I came across it, it's mostly because I started seeing designs which were doing something like that. It was first off, okay, just being the fact, okay, there's other elements here, but they are not letting the images take over at any point. How are they doing that? First was just figuring that out, but later on, yeah, if you treat it as an element, as in a way that, let's say if there's a photograph of anything on pixels, they are going to compose it in a way which tells a story of their own. But for the design that you're making, you don't have to do that. You can just go in and see which parts of it is it that you want to showcase. What kind of story do you want to say? And I do that by not making it very evident to what the whole image is about. That's one way to do it. Just scale it up, keep a little bit of mystery, and let the text and the feel of the image say what it has. The other is just take a portion of the image and cut it out. Keep it there and treat it as if it was just any other element of a graphic design. Maybe it's like a shape, and that just sits there. So
That's
yeah,
that's
that's
something that I've noticed, and I've in most of your works that even if you're actually working on a video project, right? You treat
yeah, I
image,
did.
you control the compositions, right? It is not. It's never a point where the image or the video actually takes the front stage and every other element is like supporting characters. It's not like that. It's basically you're giving that equal space, right? So have control over the composition. As you were saying, like you treat the imagery like what the form needs to be, right? So you're not looking at the context of the image, you're looking at forms, right? You're looking at the shapes of the images, you're looking at faces. I've seen like you working with portraits, where
Yeah.
portrait is just basically the eyes, right? Or a little bit of the nose and then the eyes of it. So you have that, and you try it with different compositions. That sometimes it could be vertical, sometimes it could
Hmm.
be sometimes it could be wide, extra wide, and all that stuff, right? So and you are looking at it as a form, right? What is that shape looking like, right? And
Yeah.
what is the, when it is paired with this typography, what sort of like emotion it is generating, and that works all the time, right? So I've tried, I mean, the same technique that you have been using, I've tried it using in some of my projects as well when I'm selecting images right now. Usually I don't use images in a lot of my design, but because of this problem, right, I was thinking of like, oh, it's too much to handle. I mean, like the image is taking over at this point, I don't want it to take over. Then what I will do is I try to avoid imagery. But
Hmm.
you can control it, and that's something that I have seen you do successfully in your projects. You can actually make it subtle, right? Put a very strong imagery but still make it a part of your whole cohesive story, and that's beautifully done. Now when we are talking about these works itself, what you can see here, right, if in a lot of these works, we sort of let the image do most of the work.
Hmm.
Right. So this is basically a book cover project, I think. Right.
Yeah.
So if you look at this, the imagery is doing all the heavy lifting here, and whatever elements that the design has on it, it's very very basic, right? So what do you feel about these?
Yeah, it's like you took a photograph that was already out there, you pasted it, and you just paired it with a few typefaces. That's all it is. It's
Yes.
like captioning the picture. That's what happened.
It is, it is. So the picture took everything, and every decision that you had to make was basically coming from this imagery, right? So you never made a layout before that. The first choice was the imagery. You took that there, and then everything that actually went with that imagery, you did it. So this is not exactly graphic design, right? So if you're a graphic designer and you want to sort of showcase these projects as graphic design projects, you should treat images as elements, right? So as I told you, right, I started creating that practice, and it's not very easy for me because that's something that I started very recently to use images in my work, right? So even uh, something that I've tried recently was this, right? So I've used images. I would have never used it, like maybe last year, right? Uh, but I was able to do that, and I was able to be happy with it. I know that this image is not taking over anything, right, in this particular screen.
Yep.
I'm not take over anything. I want everything else to have the equal weightage, just like the image, and I want to treat it like that. So there was a lot of research. Definitely, you have to find out how people are doing it, right? So what I've and I have this is currently my method right now, and I wanted to share it with all the students who are trying to get into this, right? So what I have done, or what I am doing right now, I'm just going to Photoshop here, and I'll show you how I do it. It seems very silly, right? It seems very silly, but it's super useful, right? So let's say I'm just going to bring an image. I think I have something here. Okay, let's take this. So you basically, what you most of us, or most of the graphic designers will work on this, is that you will first use the image, and most of us might actually forget the fact that you can crop an image, right? You basically are sort of like happy with the way that the image looks, and you treat the entire image. Okay, this is the way that this was photographed, so I need to use every of it. And then you start putting your typography on top of that and all that stuff, and you call it, okay, I made it, right? Painkiller. Okay. So you are sort of thinking like, okay, the image basically is sitting right here. So I have to put the typography right here, and maybe subtitles, I can actually put it right here, and written by paracetamol. Right. So
Right.
let's say we are doing all of this because the image is like that, right? So you did it like, okay, I can put it here because I cannot put it here because the image is already there, right? So you are compromising your decisions based on the image. The image basically drives all your decisions, right?
Mhm.
Now another thing that I found it slightly difficult is that when you take an image like this and you try to crop try to crop images like that. The problem is that this is a destructive workflow, right? So when you're cropping stuff like this, unless you're really good at compositions or photography and all that, it's very hard to find what is the right crop to make. And when you make the crop also, it is very difficult to understand or go back and recrop it again, right? So what I was thinking, or what I'm doing currently, and this might be very helpful for students who are starting with this thing, right, is that I created a template, right? So I'm just going to take this imagery and drag it to this composition right now. So I have an image like this. So what I have done here is that when I'm working on a project, I will take the image that I wanted to use into this particular composition, and I have different crops that is made as a template. Right. So what I will do is that I can just move that layer. So there is a 1:1 crop that I have made, which is basically just a white layer, and then I cut. So I will be able to move this thing around and find the right crop that I need. Right. So for instance, I can actually make a 16 is to 23 is to 3 wide crop here, right? I also can do this if I'm doing this in a portrait fashion. How can I crop this stuff, right? I can do an experimental wide, right, and say that, okay, this is how I want to crop that image, right? I want to use just that piece of it, so that actually comes on my design like that. Another thing that you can do is, once you're happy with your crop size, let's say I am happy with the 23.3 wide, I can now I can play with the distance of this crop. So all I have to do is I just have to scale it up or scale it down and move it like this, right? So all, if I want just the face, or maybe the top of the face, or maybe this part, I can just do, right? So this gives me, and it's not a definite solution, right? So this gives me an easier way to look at stuff, right? It makes it very easy when you're seeing things dynamically, and you can make your decisions just like that, right? You don't have to worry about and this works with every kind of image that you have. Like, for instance, I have another I think it's a flash photography stuff that I have. Yeah, right. So it works. You're able to create a pretty interesting composition, right, by using these kind of stuff, right? So that is my next point that I wanted to discuss here, right? Where is my okay? Where is my browser window? It's just my okay. Okay, it's here. It's here. Looking through that frame, right? So the same thing that I just told you, and the main reason why I want to say is that when you have an image, when you start to work with an image, the image takes over, right? The image is going to be, um, it, taking control of every other decision that you are trying to make. You don't have to do that, right? You can actually keep the element to a very minimal. You can still control the priority of the images. You can still create hierarchy with imagery in your design, right? So to do that, I think looking it or seeing it through frames would be a good idea. So that's the reason a basic understanding of compositions, framing, and things like that is very, very, very important. A basic understanding of photography, just something that you can actually find out from how to do compositions, right? How to crop images. So that's going to be very, very critical as a graphic designer. So try this exercise, like, take an image, try different crops, and try to bring that into your design, rather than just taking an image and then let the image do all the heavy lifting, right? So I think I would recommend checking out Mohit's works and how he basically handles imagery. It's really, really impressive, right? It is actually there in the short film that he recently made as well, right? It's called Muse. Sorry. So it's
I,
not about mute. Yeah, his profile is mute, I guess. Okay.
yeah, yeah, it is.
Okay.
Cool, cool.
So yeah, that's one way that you can actually do working on it. And as Mohit was saying, right, this is not an easy thing. You might have to look at how other graphic designers are approaching it, right? So the instinctual thing is the instincts are basically coming from the exposure, right? The things that we grew up with and all that stuff, and that might not be always good, right? So you might have to look at other sources, other graphic designers, how they are handling imagery right now in 20, how are graphic designers handling images, what kind of images are being used, what kind of photographic compositions are used, right? So it's a portrait, right? Doesn't have to be the entire face, right? It is not a passport size photograph that we are taking. So we can actually convey the whole thing with one side of an image, right? Um, I think I did the same thing with a recent poster that I worked on. I think it was in my the poster for this particular session
Hmm.
that I was doing, right? So I think you saw this, right?
I did, yeah.
Just piece of it. It's an AI imagery, but it generated the full image. But and then I felt that again, I don't need that. I don't need the full face of it. I don't want the face to actually take over. I just want the face to be there to pull people in, but then they should actually be reading the stuff which is written there, right? So that's what I wanted to do. And this is, I just want to show where is that? What is happening?
Oh, my profile. Okay.
Yeah, this is
Yeah,
Mohit's
that's.
profile right now. Yeah, I think the latest works are not there.
Uh,
Right? That video is
but
not
the
there, right?
but the framing thing is like you can see that, and
The
the fisheye
framing is
thing.
actually there. Yes,
If you
yes,
see the
yes.
tree one, that is again experimenting with another frames. The tree.
This itself is an example of that, right?
Yeah,
See
yeah.
how the image actually works in there, and he's basically using a fisheye lens to use the image, right? So look at the circle that is sort of like covering the whole thing. And if you any images that using, I think is there anything?
I think if you go to the any of the
Yeah,
places,
this
if
one
you
is actually sort of like that, right?
not so much, but it's blocking. It's using
Yeah, but
like.
there is a crop that actually comes in later, right? So it just
Mm-mm.
zooms in and then goes to a tight crop of this.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. I think if you look at maybe I think the samurai one, and if you go to the next slides, you can see if in the process that again uses the
Where is that?
go up, go up. The samurai, the red one on the right hand side, next to the beanie. This is
Next to the.
that's just next to the beanie. Go down, go down, go down. Next to the beanie. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, if you see something like that, so that's a process again. That is something I need to
Exactly.
get in the frame.
Yeah.
It had a whole
Even
composition
this
again.
particular crop, right? This
Yeah.
composition itself, like how it's like creating a contrast, but it's not the whole imagery, right? It's a portion of
Mm.
that. Here again, the composition is like beautiful. That sort of cropping also, I think you will be able to see it in a lot of general compositions.
Yeah, I think in the next slides I've turned in all of them.
Yeah, here also that is there.
Yeah, it's the same thing. So
Yes, the tight crops that and the sort of like effect that is generating, right? So that controlling of the imagery that is being like how you want the image to create an impact without compromising on the other elements or without belittling the other elements which is used in
mhm.
design. It's a really interesting approach, right? So you might have to keep thinking about that. Like, do I have to let the image take over or do I want to control it, right? What is the emotion that I want to create with it? So for this, definitely keep looking at how designers are treating design right now, right? So a lot of this is coming from your instinct. I can understand that, but that is the reason we put that in the slide that resist your instinct. Try to look to that frame. Try to create compositions on your own. Try to create or build something that the photographer didn't do it for you, right? Photographer does their job. They took the picture, they gave it to you. It's for you to experiment with it, right? And you don't even need to actually go to Unsplash and download an image anymore. You can actually create those images with AI tools, right? So even if the AI is not giving you the right image that you want, you can create that from those images. You can create multiple compositions from it. So always try to see things through that frame, right? You have to create that frame and look through that frame, right? You don't have to go with the frame that the image came with, right? So that's a very important thing. Keep noticing that, because if you do that, all of this, you know, what do you say?
You can basically change the story. It doesn't have to be what the story had in the original image. When you do the
Yes,
crops, the whole thing changes.
the whole thing changes. So if you know, if you look at these images, like the story of this book, right, the actual story, that is definitely not there, right? So this looks more like a hacker right now, I guess, right?
Mhm.
So I'm not sure. This actually looks like something which is a crime, which actually involves a lot of blood and things like that. But it's not that, right? It's basically, um, you know, pharmacies selling illegal painkillers to a lot of prescribing a lot of illegal painkillers to patients and getting them addicted to it. So this book is all about that, right? So using imagery will deviate the whole thing like that. So if you let the image take over the whole thing, then it's a bad decision, right? So don't let it do that. Create your own stories, right? Okay.
Yeah, and
So yeah,
you
please.
can. That's one frame of like that was one area by dropping it to one frame. But even if the whole,
Yeah.
you can use the whole canvas, but don't make it too evident. Where it's just
Yeah, exactly.
even I think the background image that you have, it's taking the whole frame, but it's not making evident like what is it all about. It's just conveying one of the feels of what it's going to be or what it might be about. That
The
itself,
background frame of
it's
what the
yeah,
my
your
wallpaper.
image, yeah, your wallpaper.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking. Like, okay, so nobody will be able to say what this is exactly, but it creates a story there, right? I created a story there. So that sort of things, that is something that you have to think about. It's not about cropping the image. Yeah, it's not about putting the image in a box or anything like that.
It's about how you frame
But
it.
how you frame it, it's all about how you frame it,
Yeah.
right? So that is going to be very, very, very. And I'm very new to that. I usually working with imagery, even though I have a photography background, I was very comfortable doing the compositions and everything in camera and in edits of when it is just photography that I have to represent. But when it actually came to a point where I have to use photographs in graphic design, I was struggling, right? I had this problem, like, okay, so maybe because I'm a photographer also, I don't have to compromise. I don't want to compromise the imagery, but I don't want to compromise graphic design either, right? So it became a problem for me for a long time. But now I think I can control it. I can control it and I can create a product that in the way that I want, right? So it takes a lot of effort, and that's the reason we are telling all of you this in the beginning stage of this, right? So you can keep looking at it. Don't let photography take you away from what you want to say, right? You can always control it, frame it well. So, okay, now one other thing that we just wanted to randomly discuss
Yeah.
here is, uh, see, minimalism, right? A lot of people, and this is, I will not take any works to show that, but still, let's talk about this. So, minimalism, a lot of graphic designers are taking minimalism as a shortcut, right? So, we will use minimalism, or we will actually keep it very simple because it is too easy to do. Right. So minimalism is not a shortcut, right? I have seen this in a lot of projects. We will not take that particularly and talk about it, but see, let's say I have 1 hour of time, right? So let's create a minimalist poster. It's not something that no graphic designer will think in that way, right? Because minimalism actually means that with minimal elements, you have to convey a much bigger story. That is the whole point of minimalism. So using minimal elements is not minimalism. When this minimalistic elements that you're using conveys a bigger story, that is minimalism. Right. Otherwise, it's just empty design. It's not income. It's an incomplete design. Right. When you use very small elements into it, let's say I've seen designs in here where in the poster works itself, there was just an image and one typography which went with it. I don't remember which work was it, but I'm just doing stuff like that. Where see, there is nothing much that you are contributing to the whole design of the stuff. You're finding, okay, I'll make my work very minimal because that's so easy, right? Let me just Google search and let me find images. Let me just put it all together, and I made a graphic design poster, right? So that's, I'm just saying, but that thought process is very, very dangerous, right? That's not how it works. Minimalism needs a lot of work, right? Minimalism is not something that you can do easily or faster. In fact, if you want to put out something which is minimalist, you have to work you know, uh, a lot longer than the maximalized design, right? Because see, when you are minimalist, when you're designing something minimalistic, one element might have to do multiple jobs. Your typography might have to do jobs of two different things. Maybe it will have to work as a shape, it will have to work as a typography as well. Maybe one image that you are using needs to tell a lot of stories there, right? Not just an image to decorate the whole thing, but needs to say a story, right? So you might have seen minimalistic image posters where it's just one image, but that image is so powerful that it says everything, right? You cannot just put a random smiling face, and that's not an ad for anything. Like, so minimalist ads, minimalist logos. If you look at any of that stuff, you know that there is a lot of thought which actually went behind it, right? So minimalism is not directly related to the amount of time it takes to produce it. It is how you can actually convey a message, a bigger message with a minimal number of elements, right? So, what is your thought on this? Like, um, I have seen a lot of designers, and I've even
Mm-hmm.
seen Shivani talk about this a while back. She was basically saying that she has been doing a lot of projects, but when it came to her business card or something, or maybe I think it was business card or website, she kept it very minimalistic. And she later realized that it was not a thought decision. She did it because she was lazy, working on her own self, right? So that was the reason she actually was very comfortable with minimalism, and she realized it much later, and she broke it, right? She worked against it, and she came out of that, right? So what is your thoughts on that?
First off, I think, yeah, with minimalism, a lot of people just take it as okay, it needs to be just minimal elements. That's not what it's about. It's about decluttering. You got to understand first what clutter you have. What are the things that you need to show? And as you were saying, it needs to be more intentional. A lot of these things is something that just one or two elements would have to say. And to make that work, it's a whole lot more difficult to do that. But if you are going just by the definition, you're just putting two elements and being like it's saying everything, it might not be.
It
So,
might not. That is, yeah, that's a misconception, right? So if you're being a minimalist also, like in life, I'm not talking about graphic design here. You can just walk into your home and then throw everything from there and call yourself minimalist, because you might have threw a lot of things which are actually helping you in your life as well. So you might have to replace a lot of elements. Let's say um, a minimalist will not actually take go there and throw all the jackets that they have, right? So if they do that, the thing is that they need to find an alternative where they can basically wear in winter and
mhm,
right. So one product which will actually do take care of both the needs, right? That they have to adapt to that, or maybe they cannot have all the computing devices. They are just sort of eliminating that. It might not work for a minimalist because they might need one device which can actually handle the job of multiple devices. Maybe a smartphone or a tablet computer needs to be there if they are a productive person, right? So
mhm.
you are sort of assigning multiple jobs to one product to become a good minimalist, right? It's not like you're just decluttering or throwing everything away. No, I mean decluttering is the right word, right? You are removing the clutter from your life. You're keeping all the things that needs to be functional, right? So, but not all the things. You are combining them. You are creating a new process flow for you to perform well without having that clutter around you. So that is the same thing which happens in graphic design also. Think about you're designing a logo or anything like that. So if you're working on minimalistic fashion, again, this is not something that I want to. So let's see. Look at some. This is a logo design project. So let's something that I can just see a preview of quickly so that we can open it.
Everything's in a folder.
Everything is in a folder, so right. And I think the task was crawled back. And this is what basically with 1 hour of your time, right? This is what you submitted. So I have this feeling that you went with that minimalistic thing because you just wanted to get out of there or something. I don't know. But see, none of this is actually functional, right? When you think about it, you create it with very minimal shapes. Maybe you have this shape, you have this line thing. Maybe with two shapes, you created a logo, right, for Cronmat. And you're sort of saying that this is a combination of C and W. I cannot see that, but you are saying it, so I trust you. And then a pen element to work efficiency is also something that you have created here. Think about it, many minimal elements. But when you're putting together these elements out there, and then you're saying that okay, we have designed a logo, this actually comes out to be that you didn't spend time thinking about okay how to make a minimalistic logo, right? The moment you actually got this brief, you started working on it and you created something, right? Out of the very maybe minimalistically you worked on it, but it is not a minimal logo. The outcome is not a logo, right? So this cannot be a logo anywhere, right? So this cannot be used in any cases. It cannot actually work with the ground mat idea. It actually gives a lot of other wrong ideas, right? So
It does, yeah.
it does. So that is the problem here. So it's not um, the same thing that we are talking about, right? So if you want to produce something as minimal as a logo, because logo definitely needs to be minimal, you have to put in a lot of effort behind it, right? You cannot just spawn a minimalistic logo just like that. I mean, that's where you are a minimalist in doing the work and you are expecting a maximalist output, right? So that's not going to happen. So a lot of logos in here were like that, right? So the thought that actually went to designing logos was, I'm not sure was in the right direction and all that. So I just wanted, that's the reason I wanted to talk about this, right? So to be able to do this, and this is not something that you can skip either, right? Gestalt theory and all that is very, very important, where you people generally can really get ideas by looking at shapes, right? So when we looked at the previous logo, a lot of us actually got the wrong idea, right? Okay, this is about that, right? It looks like that product and all that, or that
Yeah.
stuff. A lot of us got that idea, right? And me and Mohit, we are looking at it, we got that wrong idea. So you have to think about what people think when you're designing a logo and submitting it and all that, right? So it is not about your comfort. It's not about how to make yourself so, simple and all that stuff. It is about making that product work, right? So whatever you're designing, even with the minimal elements which people can see, they will form a story, right? When they see the minimal shape out there, there is something which always works in our brain called geometric abstraction. If you just show a circle, right? If you just show a round here, people can actually get deeper meanings from it based on the context, right? So if I just show a circle, while if you're asking me about your marks, and if you show the circle, it actually means that you got a zero, right? But again, somebody asks you, are you going to come back right now? And if you show this, you say that, okay, I'm just going to come back right now. Like, I'm going to loop back to this, right? Based on the context, it will change. People can understand with that simple hand gesture, they can get the meaning. So it also depends on the context, right? So it's just because we are actually reviewing crawl mat is the only reason that was not taken as an offensive thing, right? But that logo is actually highly offensive to submit in a class exam and all that, right? So I'm not saying you intentionally did this, but this is something that you have to be aware of. You're graphic designers, right? You need to be very aware of these kind of things. So don't see that as a short. When you try to actually use that as a shortcut, these kind of errors will happen. You might have oversight over these things. So let that not happen. Now, the next point is something that which is it connects to what the conversation that we are having, right? So you might have a lot of biases in you, right? Every person have a lot of, we have biases. We are sitting here when we are doing a review. It is not very easy for us to conduct a review just like that, right? Because we also have biases, but we try to actually make it, stand out from our biases. We are stepping aside from our biases. We are being as objective as possible at this stage, and we are able to be objective because we have that experience at this point. It's not always possible, right? When you are beginning with graphic design, it is not always possible to be objective. You will be subjective, which means that you will have your personal priorities, right? You will have your personal preferences. You'll have your personal likes of typography, colors, shapes, design, and you might believe that these are good because you like them. That's called a subjective approach, right? Because you like it, you will think that that's good. A movie, think about that. You like a movie, because you liked it, you will think that that's a good movie. Right. That's a subjective view of things. You liked a song. Because you liked it, you will think that that's a good song. And that's how you have to talk to people, right? You went to watch a movie, you came out, you liked it really well. You will go to others and you'll say that it's a good movie. You will not say that I liked that movie. You will say that it's a good movie because you liked it. Right? That's how all of us will be. That is called, right, subjective bias. So we have these biases. So what will happen is that whenever these, in the beginning of graphic design, right, when you think in a subjective way, you want to confirm that, right? You will go with something which says that my taste is good, right? So whatever I did is correct. You will have all those beliefs. It is absolutely normal to have that bias, right? But you will succeed as a designer when you are able to come out of that subjective bias and then say that, okay, I'm going to be more objective about graphic design. So I'm going to say that, okay, whatever I am doing, it is not good, right? So I need to get better. How will I get better, right? So that realization needs to definitely come within you, right? You need to realize that, okay, I'm doing something that I like. I think that this is good because I am liking it, right? Whatever I am doing, I am liking it. So I am going to keep. And what will happen at that stage when you are so into that, bias is that you will start looking for similar kinds of works, right? Something that confirms your bias, saying that whatever you are doing is actually good. So you will go and start searching for graphic design. You might find some graphic design stuff, and you might actually like them and saying that, okay, in Google, these are what graphic designers are doing. So I like it, right? So this might be the right graphic design approach that I'm taking. So you are looking for biases. You will look for people who actually appreciate your design, and you will listen to them rather than the person who criticizes your design. This is all confirmation bias, right? So, but what I'm suggesting here is that you have to start realizing the fact that you might be wrong, right? Your design decisions or your design thoughts might be wrong because we grew up in India, right? There are a lot of good things, there are a lot of bad things equally, right, in around us. Good music, bad music, good movies, bad movies, good politicians, bad politicians, good products, bad products. We are around that. We are equally seeing good and bad works, right? We cannot say that I have seen only good works all my life, so whatever I am deciding right now is going to be good. That's We cannot say that. I cannot say that. Anybody who grew up in a country like India cannot be able to say that, and it's not our fault. It's not the country's fault. Also, we are a multicultural society, so this thing will happen. There is no curation which is happening in our country either. So these kind of things will happen. We will be used to a lot of bad stuff. But you will start becoming a graphic designer when you say that whatever I know, whatever I think is very little, right? Think about it. If I'm asking you generally, right, can you name 10 graphic designers in this world? How many of you will be able to say that without looking at Google? Anybody? I'm pretty
I
sure that
could.
nobody will be able to say that. Nobody will be able to list out 10 graphic designers without looking at Google right now, right? Um, but you are graphic design students, right? Think about this in this way. I'm asking you to list out names of 10 actors. You will be able to do that. You will immediately do that. 10 actors from any region, maybe Hollywood, Bollywood, you know, Telugu films, Kannada films, Malayalam films. You will be able to list out 10 actors with so much of ease, right? But you are graphic designers. But if I ask you, like, can you list out 10 famous graphic designers in the world? You are not able to do that. Why is that? Right? You need to realize that, okay, that's wrong, right? I'm a graphic designer studying graphic design. I don't know the right? Do I know the top UX designers in the world? Do I know the top graphic designers? Do I know the graphic design books which are written? Do I know the contemporary graphic designers who are getting highly paid? Ask these questions and you will understand that, we don't know much about this, right? So if you don't know much about this, decisions are challenged, right? If your answer to these questions are no, you need to believe that then my graphic design is not up to the mark, right? My graphic design choices might not be up to the mark. So you need to accept that fact and you have to start learning, right? You need to start looking at other people who know graphic design or who are great graphic designers. Start looking at that sources. So there is something that we already, I think Mohit actually conducted one session also recently on how to mood board with one of the batches here, right? Um, Mohit, can you just share a gist of what you basically spoke about, how to actually get good exposure in graphic design to grow?
Go to curated places. That's the first thing. Any kind of designers, I mean, this thing that you're talking about, and actually building on that, why it's necessary to know those designers, it's because when you get to know them, you would get to know a lot more perspectives that you might not be aware of at the point. And if you're not aware of those things, you're going to make decisions for things that could have worked better, but you're not applying it because you don't know at this. Right. So I think for that session, I was like, just go to any of the curated places. Could be EBDC or Cosmos was the place which I kind of was like, okay, just go to that place. It's much more better works is something that you're going to find. It's going to much be much harder to find something that's bad there. Cosmos, yeah, that's the first one. Because yeah, it's like Pinterest, but Pinterest, it doesn't it kind of serves you the kind of work that you like, but that's not what we are trying to find here. We're trying to see what better works could be out there. So to get that, going into curated works, that definitely helps. And I think with that, what we did as a little exercise was just using just this platform, take it and create a mood board, and according to that, then create something out of it, any kind of a design. What ends up happening is now, if you're seeing good works, now your exposure is a little better here, the works automatically got better. I think one of the students who did work on it, her work came out pretty well from what she had been doing before. I think one other disparity that I was seeing, why is it not that people were going and looking into these stuff, is was they thought like there's not many work here. That's not the purpose. There can be a lot of works, but the thing is, if when it's not curated, there's going to be a lot of bad works out there too. And when you don't have that knowledge to curate that, or okay, which ones are actually better here, which one might be bad, to train yourself, go and look at places which has done that for you first. Once you are kind of used to it, then you start figuring it out on your own. But starting out, if you bring into that practice, then that reflects in your work. I think that's in the gist of what we did in that particular class.
Yeah, I think that actually makes see that is a very very important point that you said, right? People don't want to go to these curated places because they think that there is very little work out there. They don't have that freedom of choosing what they like, right? So the intention is not that, right? You shouldn't find anything that you like, right? Because it's not about your like, it is going against your likes, right? It's going against your instincts and finding out what exactly is good. See, if you can actually go to these top graphic design sites and if you can relate to something which is already there and you are able to look at this and say that, okay, these are good works right now, if it is honestly, if it is coming from your mind, then it actually means your aesthetic sense is actually pretty good. Right. You have a nice sense of typography and design and all that's pretty good. But if you go through it and say that, okay, it's very hard to find something that I like, then there is a disparity, right? There is a problem. And it's not your fault. And that's the reason you are not able to say that, okay, how is this my mistake? This is not your mistake. So what we are actually telling you is that if you go to these kind of curated sources, so which basically means in somebody who knows about graphic design, somebody who's very experienced in graphic design is curating, handpicking these designs, and then putting it there, saying that this is graphic design. This is the current graphic design trends. These are different treatments that you can apply. These are things which actually became successful in conveying a story or representing a brand or whatever it is, right? Solving a problem. So you have to trust them. You have to trust somebody at some point to learn something, right? If you don't trust anybody, just say that, okay, I don't trust these decisions. I don't believe it. I want and I will search and find something that actually my taste. What you're doing is confirmation bias. You are going to be still in that well, stuck there, thinking that whatever you think is good, right? So we have to break that barrier. We have to come out of it, say that, okay, I can actually relate to these things. I am definitely able to create something like this. Technically, I feel that all of you are able to create stuff like this. There is no technique because I've been going through your works. You are good in Photoshop or Illustrator, InDesign, whatever tool that you are using right now. You can create these kind of stuff. It is not impossible. Technically, it is not impossible to create any of these works that you will see. Right? You can do it. So let's do that. That is one really, really simple step, right? So you have to just trust, and it makes your job very easy, right? Go to a curated source, look at the works from there, take maybe a couple of works, study that, try to recreate them, right? And then modify them, right? So that actually makes the next point that I wanted to share here is this, right? Copy this, copy. Yes. So I think this book basically says the same idea, right? Still like
Still
an
like an
artist.
artist. Yeah.
So I would recommend this book to anybody who's interested in this graphic design, right? So it's a very, very famous book. Has anybody read this book or heard about this book here in this session? Anybody?
No.
No? No, okay.
Sir, sir, I'm reading this book, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got this book
Navya,
and read.
Navya, yes.
No,
Okay,
Navya
yeah,
and
good, good.
Shanti. Okay, cool.
Navya and Jayanti also. Okay, good, good. So it's a very interesting book, right? So Steal Like an Artist. So he is not promoting art, theft and all that stuff. That's not what is happening here, right? So we go through the book. It basically it takes a lot of ideas, right? So how to look at other works and get inspired from it, right? So how to learn your and all the things that we were basically talking about, right? What you love and what loves you. Okay. See, the beginning of obscurity is good, right? So that's something that don't throw any of yourself away, right? So there, it basically starts you, comforts you in the beginning, and it actually gives you a lot of ideas, saying that there is nothing wrong in learning from others, right? And there is nothing wrong in trusting others, taking what they have used in graphic design and then learning from that. And that's the reason I actually mentioned it in that way, right? Copy. Don't feel bad about copying a good design, doing it and learning it, right? So when you're copying work, let's say you go to a graphic design resource. Currently I have Pinterest. I wouldn't recommend Pinterest for you because your Pinterest might not be trained yet. So
Mhm.
let's say you're going through it and you find a design, right? Download it, recreate this pixel by pixel, just recreate the whole thing, right? Keep recreating the works that you actually like, or you can, if you are not able to identify or connect to a work, if you are not able to, try to download it and recreate it. Try to recreate all these discrepancies, why the spacing, the highlight on this, um, the typography choices, the colors, all of these things. Try to recreate it. You are very good at the software, so you can definitely do recreation super easy.
Mhm.
Do,
Mhm.
do that first and keep doing this so that your muscle memory remembers good design choices, even if you don't. Right. So that's something which happens, right? If you keep recreating good works, keep copying good works, and that's something that Steve, like another Steve Austin Klein says, right? You keep doing something which is good, even if your mind doesn't fully agree to it. You're doing good things every day. Your body will remember that, right? Your muscles will remember that, even if your brain doesn't agree to it, right? Your brain doesn't. So this muscle memory is actually really helpful, right? You'll be able to do when you're scaling up the type, right? You might not be thinking about it, but automatically, because of these muscle memory that you have, you will create the perfect contrast in scaling two typefaces. It will automatically happen in your muscles, right? So that is one technique, that just copy, recreate it. Don't feel that, okay, I'm just copying work of others and all that. I need to bring in. That's not something that you have to think about while you're practicing this, right? This
Again,
is not to, yeah.
intention matters here. Think of what is the intention behind this. You
What is
are
the
doing
intention?
that to understand why is it that they are doing all of these stuff. And what ends up
Exactly.
happening is when you're going deep and you might be seeing something just as is. But when you're going and trying to recreate it, you would see the fact, okay, it needs to be this big. I felt like maybe I can make it much bigger or much smaller
Yeah,
intentionally, but when you're keeping it next to each other, then it makes more sense. Okay, maybe this is what was supposed to be done. But
exactly.
the other thing is like, yeah, again, contextually, don't post this. Whatever that you're recreating, the purpose is to
You don't have
understand.
to. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
It's just to build your muscle memory. It's just to train yourself with this, right? So you cannot actually claim that this is going to be your work.
Mhm.
So for that, what I would recommend is a practice called
Ship of thesis. Yeah.
Ship of Theseus, right? So don't go and search Ship of Theseus. You will not find it. A lot with that Ship of Theseus concept in graphic design is something that I was just trying it out, and I just told a couple of students long back when they were struggling with this. Starting discipline, right? I gave them an exercise. So the exercise was very simple, right? Go to Pinterest, and I gave them a work, right? So something like, let's say, this, right? I downloaded this and I gave it to the students. And I said that I want you to recreate this, right? I want you to just take any design tool that you want, recreate this exactly like this. So if you're not able to find the perfect typeface, um, do with something that looks visually similar to that, right? So they tried to actually scan the typeface, they try to find the typeface and all that. They created this pixel by pixel, everything, they created it just like that. Then what I asked them is to change elements one by one at a time, right? So go into this design, try to change the main typography to a different typeface and see if that works. Then you feel that the design is breaking, stop it at that point, right? So without breaking the design, they had to change the elements one by one. Towards the end of this, they had to change the colors, they had to change the position, they had to change the layout and all that stuff, and it became a completely different design. But with every version of the design, it never went to a bad, design. It was always a good design because we started from a good design, right? So when they were doing it, they were changing that design, but it never fell down into the bad design, area. It always maintained itself with the design discipline, because we use this background, right? So I'll show you. So before that, let me tell you what is ship of Theseus, right? So ship of Theseus is a paradox. I wouldn't say paradox. What is it? It's a thought experiment. Um, okay.
Yeah, this one.
Yeah. So it's a paradox as well. So it's a thought experiment where, think of it like very simple example, right? Think of a ship, right? A model ship which is actually placed inside a room, right? A small model ship. Every day, and a guy called Theseus actually made this, right? So it is actually sitting right in the middle of a room, a model ship. And every day, one person is going there and they are replacing one part of that ship with another part, right? One part. So one day they will go and take the steering wheel and then replace it with something else. Next day they will go in and change the wind rafters and change it with something else. And every day they went in and changed it. And at one point, right, after maybe like say 10, 15 days, right, none of the original part of the original ship will be there in this, in the new version, right? The question is it still the same ship or is it a different ship? Right.
Yeah,
That was the
that's the
question. That's why
paradox.
it is a paradox. That is why it is
Yeah.
paradox. We don't have a definite answer to it, right? So every day they kept and changing this. So none of the original elements of that initial design is there in the recent ship, but it was actually made on that basis. So we just modified it. So is it just a modification or is it a completely new ship? People were not able to answer that. Right. That's called ship of Theseus. So that is the same thing that we are doing in this exercise, right? You recreate everything. You change one element. I'll show you a simple example. So if you go to, I'm just opening Figma here. See, let's say this. Let's take a look at this design, right? So you can basically see this is the original design. Let's imagine that this is the original design. So then somebody just went in here and then you pixel perfectly. You just changed everything and you redesigned this, not redesigned, you replicated this design. Whatever you see on the left side, it's exactly the same, right? So what I have been saying here is that just replace one element, just like ship of Theseus. You don't go and redesign the whole thing. Just change one element. For instance, just change this typography, right? Only this typography from the original design. Now keep changing it unless you are happy, until you are happy with a design decision, right? Something which will replace this, and you're going through it and you're finding a lot of options, so nothing else is changing, right? Only that thing is changing. So you can make sure that, okay, I'm not breaking the design because it is only the typography. So if I do something, let's say if I do something like this, no, it doesn't work because it's too different from the original design, right? I cannot do that. It breaks the design. So but then I can keep trying something else which is not that um, drastically different from the original one, right? So let's say, okay, let me use this, right? So this is your first modification. You just did that, right? So and you're looking at it. Okay, that's not too much of damage that I have done to it. You can just duplicate this, and in here you are going to change something else, another element. Let's say you're not going to replace this image, right? I'm just saying, let's go to fill and upload from the computer. Use another image. Replace that. Okay, did I? Okay.
It did. Yeah.
It did. So I replaced the image, right? So it's one other modification on the next version, right? So just one element at a time. I'm going in here and I'm going to say that, let me just play around with the layout here, right? So a slight bit. I'm just going to change these two things. What if I change the position of this thing, right? From here, I'm just going to bring, let's say, these two text. I'm going to just put it somewhere here. I'm just going to align everything in here. I'm going to make this shape come right here. Right? Just a simple modification that I've done here. That's the only element that I'm going to work on, right? Duplicate this, and then you keep working on that. What if I just change the colors here? So I'm just going to make this to red. Just going to make this color also to red, right? One other modification. Duplicate this, right? Keep doing this, but always keep one element, right? So one element you are just changing this. So this particular thing, I want to change this to another typeface. So I'm just going to try something. Okay. Let's make it a like this.
Okay.
Yeah. So one other element in there, right? So you keep modifying it, and this can actually take a long time because you are changing just one element here, right? So you can go in here and say that, okay, for the last version here, I'm going to change this menu, maybe these things. I will sort of create a different layout for that. I'll just put it right there, right? So we are just playing with stuff one by one, and you will know exactly how many variations that you have created, where did you start from, and you will be able to create, since you're doing it one by one, right? It never falls into bad design, right? Unless you change everything at one go, it never falls into that. Like whatever foundation that you started with, you'll still maintain the discipline there. You can just go in and change all the typefaces. Maybe the layout also is something that you can change. So you're going to say that, okay, what if I replace the layout, right? I'm just going to bring right here like this, right? So I'm just going to move everything behind
Circle.
that. Yeah, some circles there. I'll just send it back. Where did the circle go, by the way?
It's there. Right
there?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it is there. But the color was different, right? So I just
Yeah.
changed the color now to different colors. So yeah, see, you changed it. Now you know that, okay, it was actually white, so I need to change the color that I'm using here to maybe black for that to be visible, right? So now I'm going to stop it right there. But let's say we are going to take the original design, which is sorry, who was that? Right? This is the one. Okay. Original design and the last modification that we have done, right? And if you look at this, right, this is different from the original design, right? Think about it. It's the typography is different, the layout is different, the imagery that we are using is different, except this part, right? Pretty much all the stuff that we are using here is different. It even looks like two versions that we submitted as the final output, right? Two different versions. But you can see the workflow, what we did right now, right? We actually started replicating an original existing design. We then modified one element at a time. We replicated. So you had a base foundation which was pretty strong, and you kept working on that. You kept changing one element at a time, and you were able to create a design which is, evidently different from the original design. Nobody is going to come and say that now this is a copy of this design. Nobody would say that. Right? It's not a copy, right? It's a modification. Right? We just changed a lot of things, so it doesn't connect to the original design in any sort of way, except the typography uses. But that also is something that we can change just like that, right? So this is how Ship of Theseus. This is how the philosophy of Ship of Theseus works in graphic design, and this is what we wanted to share with this, right? So now, before we conclude the session, right, a summary of all the things that we wanted to discuss and share, right? So the things that we already discussed here, you can find that in this. The first thing is study from curated sources. I think Mohit also mentioned it, right? So when we are looking at curated sources, somebody is sort of like guiding you there. I mean, they are handpicking this, they are taking a lot of effort, they're using their knowledge to sort of tell you that this is good design, right? So look at that and learn from it. You have to trust that, right? You cannot actually have your bias above any of this stuff, right? Now, think beyond your limit, right? So, see, currently, and this is a very, very valid thing to consider, right? So, your knowledge, right? How much you know about certain things, right? Any subject, graphic design or anything. That knowledge is something which drives your creativity, right? A highly creative person knows a lot of things, right? Whatever they know will drive their creativity. If they don't know anything, they will not be creative, right? It's very simple as that. So when you think that, okay, this is the limit that I can do, right? This is all I know right now. That is because that is your knowledge, right? That's the limit of your knowledge. You cannot directly work on your creativity, but you can work on your knowledge. Right? Creativity is a manifestation of your knowledge. You cannot directly improve your creativity. Right? Improve your creativity. There are so many workshops and things like that that actually says that, okay, I can improve your creativity. That's not going to happen, right? You cannot directly work on creativity. Creativity is an outcome of knowledge, right? So you can work on your knowledge. Try reading, try reading a lot of books, try listening to what other graphic designers are saying, try attending classes with active listening skills. Then you will stop thinking that, okay, I'm actually a student and I can do only this much, right? That's not the way it is. In the moment you start building on your knowledge, your limit actually will become wider, right? There is not going to be a closed limit. Your limit will be much higher. Right now, I have a limit. I know that, right? If I learn certain more, or if I read a little more, that limit will actually be also be growing, right? So my area that I can actually control will be much bigger, and it will grow with how much things that I know. Right, when you know it, you will be able to be more creative. You'll be able to produce things. You will be able to analyze things. So even this particular session, right? Um, I am, or me or Mohit, we are able to conduct this session because of our knowledge, right? How much we know about design. That's the only reason. That's the only thing that gives us the confidence. It is not our job experience. It is not our the number of projects that we have done and all that stuff. Nothing matters because I haven't done a single project, I remember properly. So we don't have that much of experience. Mohit is a student, right? He is an MSc second year student. Most of you are MSc first year students, right? So that's the gap which is there. But what I'm trying to say is that this is all dependent on the knowledge, how much informed you are about things, right? That's the only thing that matters. So you have to start thinking like that. Think, expand your knowledge base, right? So I think Mohit also will have that same idea. I mean, every day, see, basically, the kind of discoveries that we are stumbling upon, right? So it could be a concept, it could be, and that information we value a lot, right? Yesterday, even yesterday, we were talking about. I was watching a pretty bad movie, right? And something which was there, some line that one the negative character in that movie was saying, and that made a lot of sense. And I was like, okay, this is such a bad movie, but that line makes a lot of sense. And I was able to learn. So we kept looking for, even in bad movies that we are watching, we kept looking for knowledge, something that we can add to how much we know about stuff, right? When you start like that, when you start thinking like every day, I want to be, I want to learn something, right? Then your limit is going to be, you're going to go into that goat mode of, so you can build that culture in you, right? So that's something that I would definitely recommend here.
I guess the
Uh,
other thing is like if
yeah.
you are going into this, just the exposure thing that we were talking about. This is something, a practice that we have seen a lot of designers talk about. If you go and look at like
Yes.
structure of maybe how David Carson goes about doing something, or
Yeah.
how Michael Purate might consider something, just go and look at a few of their TED Talks. You'll get to know like what is the thought process behind anything that they're doing, where is it coming from, why is
Yes.
it that's much more relevant than the next person? How is it that they're making that relevant?
True. True.
All of those
The
things that's
process, I
going.
can study a lot from them itself. Just look at how or what how they actually speak about design itself.
Yeah.
In talks like that Google talk that Michael Virut was doing, right?
Yep.
The amount of information that you just get from listening to one talk, maybe half an hour of the talk, right? So the amount of info that actually comes to you is actually really valuable, especially when you're working on this. See, this actually matters. No matter if you're a graphic designer or a product designer or an engineer or a doctor or anybody, think about it. Your knowledge defines you. How much you know about stuff defines you, right? So keep thinking beyond, right? Currently, this is what I can do, but what can I do if I learn more is something that should drive you, right? Think beyond your limit. Now, another thing that I want to say generally is that function for a goal, right? So when you're doing something, anything, it can be very mundane stuff like, let's say going to a cafe and drinking coffee, right? When you're doing it, make sure that you're doing that for a reason, right? Make sure that you're doing it for something. Maybe meet more people, right? That could be the goal, that you go to a cafe and drink coffee, right? Or when you are talking to a person, right? Make it for a goal. I am talking to this person so that I need to learn about this stuff, right? Or it can be, imagine that you are watching a movie, right? Make it for a goal. I am doing it for entertainment or relaxation. Just like that, when you're writing an exam also, think about the goal. Why are you doing it? Okay? Always function for a goal. So when you're submitting a work, let's say 1 hour of practical exam, you're submitting something, think about the goal. Why am I writing this exam, right? What is going to happen? So you're going to get grades. I need to get a passing grade. That is your goal, right? Function for that goal. Try, put in some effort for that passing goal. Right. So anything that you do it for a goal. When you're doing a portfolio, there should be a goal. I need to get into a good job, right? So I need to work on that. When you're coming to the class and listening, or when you're attending this session right now that you're doing, right? Don't do it because somebody asked you to do it. Don't do it because somebody it was made mandatory, right? Do it for a goal. So I'm going to go into this session to learn something, right? To understand something about my work, or what am I doing wrong? What is the direction that should take and all that. Just always keep a low goal in everything that you're doing, every single thing. Then you will not regret your life, right? When you're looking back at things that you did, you always think that that time that was my goal. I did it for that, right? At the time, this was my goal. Always, if you have a goal, you will not regret anything in your life, right? When you're doing that. Otherwise, if you're doing things without an objective, because of somebody asked you to do it, without no particular reason, you are in certain places and all that, you will regret that. You will regret that later. Okay, why did I do this? Why? What was the point? But if you have a goal in mind and you did it, chances of you regretting that is very, very. I always build that habit that whatever simple things that you're doing in your life, you're doing it for a goal. It doesn't matter how big that goal is, but there should be a goal. When you came to the college, I think when I did the induction, I asked you, right, what is your goal? Why did you take this program? A lot of people were not able to answer that question, right? What is the student goal, right? They were not able to say it because they haven't thought about it. They thought that this is something that they do, right? They finished this course, so now I have to do another course, right? That's it. So very few people said that, I want to get a job, right? But a lot of them didn't even say that. But getting a job itself shouldn't be a goal of taking this program, right? But they were not able to. They were not able to think about that in that perspective because they never did this, right? In school, right? When you're going for the classes and attending every session, right? Is there any particular goal? We never thought about a goal, right? Um,
It was
I don't,
compulsory, and people just went there for just for the sake of it. You were just
yeah,
completing
but then
the
we were not even in school, right? I'm just talking about school. We never even bothered about acting because that was something that the parents will take care of, right? That's something that we thought of, right? So we never had a goal. Like going to the classes, we never even thought that okay, it's compulsory, so I have to go. That was not the goal, right? It's a routine that we are doing. We have to go to school. We don't know why, but we have to get up at this time. We have to get ready, go to the school, sit there till 4, and then come back home, right? So this was a routine. We were not doing it for a goal. There was absolutely no goal, right? For me, there was absolutely nothing. I never thought about this. Even when we are taking leaves and things like that, right? When we are in school, I mean, our parents will decide the leaves, right? We have to go to a trip or maybe something like that. I never thought that it is my responsibility. So its parents took the leave and I don't have to go to school. I never bothered about it. I never bothered about what I'm going to miss in school. I know that I'm not going to miss anything in school. Right? So nothing. There was no goal at all, right? The goal started showing up when we started doing these professional courses and things like that, right? So we wanted to study for a particular course, right? Or we even in college also, when in initial days and all that, I was going for a goal of getting the attendance. I am not interested in what they're teaching, but I have to go there because attendance is mandatory. Right? So there was a goal. It was not the right goal, but there was a goal. It's it's see, it doesn't even have to be the right goal, is what I'm saying. But there should be some goal. Like, so if you're coming and say that I go to college, let's say you're coming to this class because my girlfriend is in this class. Right? Let's say that. Let's say that's a good goal. It's not bad. They're doing it because they can spend time together, right? That's a good goal. But there should be a goal like that at least.
See, think of it in this respect, the fact like we are giving examples so that you are more intentional in what you do. And when that happens in your daily life, it
Yeah.
reflects back in your work too.
It reflects. Yes,
So, because,
you're in control. Yes, exactly.
yeah, so everything is there out there. You're kind of going about and doing it in autopilot. You might not be taking notice of these things. Start
Yeah.
doing that. And when you do that, you start to look at it and start taking notice of it everywhere.
Yeah.
That's why there was no judgment here on what kind of goals they are, but just the fact acknowledging that there is a goal, because there
Yeah.
is for everything. But the thing
For
is,
everything, there should be. There should be. Yes.
but are you aware of that or not? Is it a goal that you setting or somebody else is setting for you? All of these things. So when you are aware of these stuff, and when you are going out and you are working on, maybe let's say on a design and all, you're gonna think about that there too. What is my goal here? What is it that I'm trying to achieve here? If that becomes a habit.
True.
Right. So that is the whole point of view that he's trying to get across here.
Yeah.
Right? Cool. Yeah. Yeah, that was my.
So yeah, so that basically takes you to the next point also. Keep improving yourself, right? So
Yeah.
currently, whatever goal that you have, it doesn't matter, right? So as I told you, if it's a wrong goal, also it is fine. But you keep improving that, right? Once you go know the goal, and you keep improving yourself, right? You say that, see, I'm a better version of myself than yesterday, right? I'm today I know more stuff. I don't this That's one reason that I don't want to time travel to my past, right? A lot of people say that, okay, I wish I was a kid and I wish I was back in my childhood days and all that stuff, right? I'm scared of that thought because if I'm back in my childhood, I don't know like half of the stuff that I know right now, and I'll be in big trouble, right? I don't want to relive that. So it's every day is actually a new version of yourself. You know much better stuff. You know how to handle problems better. You're learning from your mistakes. You are an improved version of myself. So let's say it should be at a level where you regret the design that you did yesterday, right? You should. I mean, it's a good thing. Like you are looking back at a design that you did a while back, and you're saying that, okay, I can design it much better. I can actually make a much better work than what I've done like 2 weeks back, right? This depends on the amount of growth that you're having in that time. But let's say if you are able to produce only the same amount of stuff or the same quality stuff that you were doing like let's say 10, 15 years back, that's not a good version. That's not a good improvement that you had on yourself, right? You should be able to do things much better by now, right? Whatever you did earlier, you should be able to do or handle those problems much better right now. So that's where you should focus on at this point of your life, right? Keep improving yourself. Another thing is be curious, right? So that curiosity is something that drives you, right? Ask questions. Let's say if we are talking, right, and why did they say about this thing, or where did you find this example? How did you learn about design, or what is that you did in your career to actually improve yourself? Keep asking questions, right? Keep asking why, keep asking how, keep asking what. Be curious about everything which is happening around you. That will actually be a good practice to it is to go forward. So that we have a question from
Yeah,
Tanya.
yeah. I think two students are here. Cool.
I think Navya already. Navya, do you have a new question, or is it the you forgot to take your hand? Okay.
Uh,
Tanya, Tanvi, do you have a question?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, so sir, in the starting of the class, you mentioned about the critic to yourself.
Huh.
So I have a question: how do one can critic their self? Because see, I'm frankly speaking, when I make designs, so I make a judgment that it is looking very good, but then I need somebody's help. So before I check it, I send it to somebody who checks it properly. So I leave it on them how they analyze it and they make the mistakes and everything in my design.
Okay.
So what are the key points? How can we critic ourselves?
See, from all the conversation that we had, right, it was basically about the whole idea of this was to take you to a level where you trust yourself better than others. Right. So think about all the conversation that we had, right? So studying from curated sources, thinking beyond your limits, you are functioning for a goal, you are an improved self yourself every day, and you are curious about stuff. So you know a lot of things better than a lot of other people around you. Right? Think of that. That this will come when you are confident, when you are doing all this stuff, that confidence is going to come to you, saying that I am a better judge because I know all this stuff and I have been seeing a lot of what other graphic designers are doing currently. So when I take a design decision, I know that this is good, right? Now, when you are not aware of that, when you don't know what you are doing and all that, you personally went with that initial bias that I was talking about, right? There is a suggestive bias that you had, and you are trusting on somebody else, which we don't know, like whether what is their bias when they are looking at stuff, right? So we need to basically analyze how capable they are first. But isn't that easy to actually do that to ourselves? Because see, we are actually it's like this, like I am a designer and I'm doing work, but I will just make designs and I'm giving all the stuff of learning about design and growing about design, knowing of understanding the trends of design. I'm assigning everything to somebody else, and I'm saying that I will do design, I'll send it to you based on your knowledge, you evaluate it and tell me what to do, I will correct it, I'll send it back to you, right? So that is not going to work, right? When you go with all these stuff, let's say you start studying design from curated sources, you know what exactly is good design, right? You know what the other designers are doing. You learned a lot by reading books. You're following a lot of designers and all those things. So you set up your benchmark, and you know that okay, I know a lot of stuff about design. I know a lot of good stuff about typography. With that knowledge, I can evaluate it. So when this knowledge actually builds up in your mind, right, you will be able to break your bias. Right. So I will tell you an example. It could be a controversial example, but generally speaking, let's say religion, right? Religion that we are all born into, right? Some religion. That is a suggestive bias that we are following, right? We are following it because our family is following that, our parents are following that, right? There is no particular reason for us to follow it other than that. We don't have any first hand experiences, we don't actually know much about it, but since our parents are following that, we are following, I mean, whatever religion it is, right? We are following that. So when we start, that is suggestive bias, right? When you start learning, let's say you are starting to learn about human evolution, we are starting to learn about how universe was formed and all those things. When you start scientifically analyzing all of these things, There could be an area where when we know more about it, there could be chances that we will be start questioning our suggested bias, right? There are chances that we will question, okay, does it really exist, or is it actually something that humans made up, right? Or for certain reasons, does it actually exist? And we start questioning those things as and when our knowledge grows, right? So when it grows to a certain level, we will come out of that suggestive bias and we'll form our own biases, right? Something that is based on our knowledge than suggestive ones, right? Somebody basically suggested it to you and you are using that, or it is very subjective, right? Where based on that location, based on the area that you are born into, you have been pulled into that religion, you have been following that for a long time. But when you start learning it, you had the confidence to say that there could be another side, right? This is eventually something that you garner from your knowledge, right? So that's the same thing which is happening here as well. When you start uh, looking at it, saying that my biases, my beliefs might be wrong, when you are actually looking at it from an upper area, right? From a better point of view. When I have more knowledge, right? My views are going to change, right? Whatever I like today, I might hate it tomorrow when I know more about it. Right, that's definitely going to happen. This will happen to me, this will happen to you, this will happen to every single person who is living, right? When we are growing, we might start hating the things that we have done in the past. So we are trying to just fasten that process, right? We're just saying that if you do this for graphic design, I'm not talking about life in general, but for graphic design, when you start learning or looking at it from this curated sources, you will break that bias that you have, right? When you think about, okay, I am too biased to that design, it will go away when you start learning more about design, when you start reading more about design, when you listen to a lot of design conversations, you will actually break that bias. When you break that bias, you don't need anybody's help to say that whatever you're doing is good. You can objectively say that whatever design that I have done is good, right? You don't need to depend on anybody. That is the level that you have to take yourself in whatever time that you have in this course, or even when you're working continuously, right? When you do that, you will slowly elevate you to that position. That is where you should work and put your efforts on. Mohit, you're there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
Yeah,
So,
can you?
yep. Tanvi, did that answer your question though? Are you a little clear about like what your query was?
Pardon, sir?
I'm saying
Oh,
like, is
the
that
question is that, yeah, is
yeah?
that
Is
clear?
that clear? Is that clear?
Yes, yes, sir. Much clearer.
Okay.
What is your thoughts about this, Mohit? Yeah.
The same thing. The more you are exposed to a lot of stuff, see, this is what happens. I think she was talking about how to critique herself.
Yeah.
The critique becomes better as and when you are learning more about things. So again, getting to know about the perspectives of other designers. So if you know that, if you know where they are coming from, what approaches you should be taking to evaluate something, you can do that on yourself, isn't it? That is there. And
Yes.
then
Yes.
I think at a very technical level, the very easiest way at times is to just create a mood board, create it, analyze it, and then make a design and just put your design in there and see if it belongs there or not. If it doesn't belong there, that means you have to work on it. As simple as
Yes.
that. Right. Just
Yeah, that's
what else?
benchmark your work, right? I mean, you can
Yep.
keep increasing that and then say that until I will work until it actually belongs there. So you take it. So when you think beyond that, will actually see this is all connected. When you study from curated sources, it will let you think beyond your limit and you'll start functioning for that particular goal, thus making you improve yourself. Right.
Yeah.
So it's all connected. The first part is basically connected to your question, right? So continuously strive for that growth, right? You have a goal right now that I need to be in a position where I am able to critique myself objectively, right? Not subjectively, objectively. Right now, if you're doing it and you're saying that you like every design that you're making, that's a subjective view, right? That's because you're looking through it with your existing knowledge. You have to improve your knowledge to look at from an objective view, right? So you can then say that the majority will actually appreciate that this is a good design, right? Or accept that as a good design. It's a functional design, it is an aesthetic design, and all that will come to you when you have that amount of knowledge in you. To justify your design, also, it is very required, right? So imagine that you are designing a logo and you're presenting it to a brand, right? You need to come up with how that logo is relevant to your brand, right? So for that, you need to know a lot of things. And you cannot be subjective when you're presenting. You cannot say that I like this logo and that's the reason I designed it, right? You need to think of it as an objective thing and say that, see, I designed it thinking about this logic, and this makes it accessible to people and you, right? You are telling your story of the brand. So I am actually looking at it. I'm separating myself as a designer and a viewer, a user, and I'm able to say that it works for that, right? So to do that, you should be able to disconnect yourself from you.
That reminds me of Saki Habib, his story
Yeah.
about this one
Yes.
particular project. Do you remember Conservation International?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Holy shit, that thing. I mean, if you guys have time, just go and look up Conservation
I think we
International.
can. We can. Let me just open that up 1 second. What
Okay.
am I doing?
The client was not going for it because that's the story that was not connecting to them, and they kept investigating that, and they got to know the original logo had this monkey that was hand painted by one of the founders, and that's one of the reasons why they didn't want to let it go of. They knew that, and what they did was they put that thing in the story. So they created a motion graphics where it starts with a monkey there, which is in a jungle, and there was the whole concept was now it's not about just the environment, it's about the people as well together. So that's why it's the blue circle and the green line. And they started with the logo, so it kind of morphs from the monkey and the people and everything, and it becomes this design now, and now they agreed with it. Why? Because they had that cognitive load of the fact, like, okay, why is it the fact like these guys would be going in, even though I am actually putting out something that's very relevant?
True. They were able
Understanding
to
that.
convince that. They were
Yeah.
able to, right? So that actually requires a lot of knowledge
Mm-mm.
to talk about design, right? To sort of like break that bias that the client was having. So yeah, that actually is a very interesting example. I remember the TED talk. That's
Mm-mm. I think if you go look for Sagi Habib TED Talk, that should be the first one
that
that
will be
pops
there.
up.
I think the graphics is not actually here, right? The animation is not actually here.
It's not here. But I think in the final one, it does have it. He even had that whole phone conversation where she was trying to describe how things
Yeah.
should be, and he just converted that whole into this animation thing. And that's interesting.
Okay, that's very nice. Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay.
So just one of the points for
Yeah.
that fact, like if you are trying to like, how do you become better at self-critiquing or convincing somebody else? It's firstly understanding yourself first. What is it the goal that you're trying to achieve? And when you know these two aspects, you can manipulate it or just kind of push it towards what is it that you're trying to achieve at the end of the day. Because even the client, they want something that's better for their business. You want to put out something that looks good, that is more relevant to you as a designer too, that is serving to other people as well. These are not two different goals, but at times the biases of others they have come in for sure. But if you're aware of that, you would be able to address it.
True.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
This brings us to the next point as communicate, right? See,
communicate. Yeah.
this is communicate. This is very, very important for a designer. See, unless you engage in a conversation, right? The amount of information that goes into your mind is actually very, very minuscule. It is, see, right now, they were able to ask questions, right? See, the question actually triggered a conversation, right? The question actually expanded on the thought which we basically shared. We were able to share more info when that question actually came from you. This is something which I've noticed that it lacks across batches, right? Across people who are actually coming to study design. I've noticed this tendency that you're comfortable hiding in a shell, right? You're very comfortable not speaking, and you think that okay, that's not a priority. I don't have to speak. I don't have to communicate. I can just passively listen to this, and I will learn everything. Maybe 10 percentage. If you're not engaging with the conversation, 10 percentage of what is being shared to you will go into your mind, right? Um, and that 10 percentage also will have to struggle to actually hold on to something, right? So if you are engaging, but if you are having conversations, if you are communicating back, it will be more. Maybe around 80 percentage of that info will directly go back to your head without any processing, I'm saying. So bring or cultivate that habit of uh, sharing your thoughts, communicating with your mentors. When you are in class, you are entitled to ask questions, right? So silence is not something none of us actually appreciate. We have mentors who are actually in this conversation, and I have had this conversation with many of them, and everybody is willing to help you out, right? Everybody is sort of like waiting to have a conversation. They love having that conversation, but the class is reluctant, right? The students are reluctant to actually engage in a conversation, to speak to them. Unnecessarily, you're afraid of things like afraid of judgments. Nobody is going to do that, right? No one does that here. You say it in any language that you want. That is also something that we will accept it. If you are not comfortable about language, if you want to write it, we have created crawl maths here basically so that you don't have to ask it in class if you are scared about it. Just articulate that question in the crawl mat that we have right now. But I've seen that resistance happening there also. You're still afraid because you don't know what to ask. You don't know, is that the right question? That is basically because of these things, right? You're not functioning for a goal. You're not actually focusing on the task that you're supposed to do right now, where it is attention, understanding what has been shared to you, doing some research and validating what you're learning every day. So if you're not doing it and if you're not being curious, there is nothing to ask, right? If you don't know the subject, there is nothing that you can ask about the subject, right? If you know it, you can. If you know everything about it, then also there is nothing to ask, right? But uh, try to build that habit. Start communicating with your mentor at least the time that you have, right? See, the main batch that is in this conversation, you have a long way to go, right? I think you have around minimum 8 months, 8 to 12 months that is remaining in this program. So you can still do all of these things. Everything that is recommended here, you can still bring it to practice, right? Uh, this happens when you can prioritize and focus on what you want, right? Um, let's say you are taking this program, a design program to study and all that, and there could be a lot of things that will come your way, a lot of distractions, right? Lot of things that you have to do in a day. It all depends on how you prioritize stuff, right? What is that? Again, this will happen only if you have a goal. Why are you taking this program? Is it to make a good career? Is it to learn graphic design just for the sake of learning it? Whatever that goal is, right? um, you're doing it for that, so you need to prioritize your things in a day, and focus on that task, right? So when you're saying that, okay, I will only study for 2 hours in a day, I will only dedicate 2 hours in a day for this particular course, which is absolutely fine by me. But those 2 hours, you need to focus on this, right? You cannot just say that, okay, I will ask 2 hours, I have class, maybe 1.5 hours will be in class, half an hour I'll just phase out or something like that. That's not dedicating time, right? You're prioritizing stuff. Let's say one day you have a wedding of a friend, absolutely fine. You prioritize that wedding over everything and you focus on that wedding, right? You focus and enjoy that particular time. But there should be some time where you will be prioritizing this study as well, right? Your life needs to be the priority. Your future needs to be your priority at some point of time, right? Because I don't believe that for your life is not going to be a priority for anybody else, right? Their lives are going to be priorities for them, right? So you need to basically think of your life. You need to prioritize your life above everybody's life at this point, right? Because whatever you do want to do in your future, right? Even if it is, if you want to help other people, support other people and all that, you need to focus on your work right now so that you can support them effectively, right? If you don't do that, then you will not be able to help people out, you will not be able to help yourself. So you have to do that, right? So you're doing this program. Let's say I've noticed people who have other jobs joining this program, and their priority is still that existing job that they have, and they don't spend any time studying this program. So I've told them that, see, if that job is your priority, then why don't you focus on that job? Why are you taking this program? Because if you study like this program is not going to offer you anything. You will not be learning anything. You are not paying attention to the assignments. You are not learning anything. You haven't improved a little bit. So it isn't going to help you out. So then don't take this program parallelly, right? If you are doing this program, prioritize this program because you are paying money to actually make yourself better. Then your focus should be here, right? Again, people who are taking the program, even if they are not working, also they will take the program and they will be completely silent and they will have to sort of like, okay, I need to make myself invisible through this program. No, me and all that. So that is the way a lot of people actually think in this program. I will be as silent as possible. So when the class started, I will log into the class so that nobody will notice me, and I will stay here till the faculty is there, and I'll leave. Right, so that there is no conversation happening in between. Nobody will notice me entering the class and all that stuff. And they're the kind of people who don't actually contribute to conversations, assignments, and all that. Like they think that it's all for me, right? I mean, like there is somebody, you are all working towards the betterment person called Mahesh Ravi, and then okay, one day I'm enough. I had enough. I cannot help Mahesh Ravi anymore. I'm just like, I will not attend this class. It's actually for yourself. Right? You're attending these classes for yourself. So it is your responsibility to prioritize and focus, right? It doesn't matter if it's there like two students who are coming to my class or if there are five students coming to my class. There is no much difference, but you have to take that responsibility, say that, okay, I have to learn, so I am going to spend more time, I'm going to focus on what I'm studying, and it's your work, right? Prioritize that. I've even told you an example, right, Mohit? Do you remember, like there was a student who actually took a 1 month program, sorry,
Yeah,
1 year,
yeah,
and because the person asked for a 4 months leave for attending their sister's wedding or something like that, right?
yeah.
I hope that that student is not in this batch or in this group. But think about it, like 1 year program and 4 months. Um, See, there are two ways to look at it, right? This is that student's life, and they are sort of like he's studying a program. So 4 months is actually very important for that person, or they can see it like this. So my sister's wedding is actually really important, so I shouldn't be doing that program. I shouldn't be doing this program at this time. I'll wait until the wedding is over, and then I will join for the program. Right? It was a simple decision, but why do they do this is something that I will never understand, right? I think that's a lack of prioritization and focus which is happening in this generation. Now, when we come to the last point, right, this is going to be very, very critical, right? See, when this is one of the reasons that we didn't actually pick every single work and we didn't critique it, right? When we were actually opening the works, right, while I was going through it, and I showed you a couple of examples where there's a bold spelling error, which actually is the thing there. There was a wrong word which was typed into this the poster designs. There was bad layouts and things like that. See, when it happens, right, people are going to notice the bad things first, right? And when you are putting these things together, when you have a lot of mistakes in your design, definitely people are going to be focused by the bad things. They will ignore any good things which is in that image or in the design that you are doing on. So you have to think about that. When you're creating a portfolio, the idea is to show your strength, right? When you create a resume, right, you are going to showcase all the things that you can do, right? You will not say that, no, I have never seen a resume which actually lists out the things that you cannot do, right? So I don't like communicating. I don't like speaking to people. I don't like this. And nobody says that. They say that I like running, I like community, I'm a team player and all that stuff. They brag about the good things that they can do, right? So they showcase the good things out there. But when it comes to a design portfolio, if it actually highlights the bad things that you can do over the good things that you can do, nobody is going to hire you, right? So when you're creating a portfolio, your highlight needs to be that I want to see, I want to highlight all the good things. I want the good things to be more in my design so that they will ignore the minor mistakes in my design. But it shouldn't be the other way around, right? That I've noticed a lot in the projects that we just saw, and also the general portfolios that we are looking at students and all that. It basically immediately when you open it, they'll say that okay, this person doesn't know typography, this person doesn't know layout, this person doesn't know color comparing. That is not how somebody should view your work. When somebody sees your work, they should say that okay, they know typography really well. They know how to work with images. They know how to maybe work with colors, right? The strengths actually should go to their minds, and they might actually forgot, or maybe ignore the mistakes that you are making in between in one slide and all that stuff, right? um, because the other thing, the strength actually takes the upper hand, right? So that is something that you have to focus on, right? So what do you think about the portfolio presentations, Mohit? Like how, and you might have noticed a lot of works.
Yeah, yeah. I
What
think a
is,
lot. Yeah,
yeah,
it kind of goes. I think that was one aspect, like show your strengths, and the other is like whenever you're completing a project, I don't think enough time had been put on the fact like how the presentation is going to be. How is it that somebody is going to view your project? That needs another dedicated hour to make it look presentable. I think
yes,
you can make something. I've seen projects where the project was actually really good, but as you said, the strength was hidden. I had to go
yeah,
find it, and the everything that was bad about it, I could see it in caps. I was like, bro, okay, if you just change the hierarchy, this will work really well.
yeah,
So again, this kind of comes in. So if you are walking into it, so don't you've completed, you've made something sure. Take a moment to see it as okay. If somebody else was seeing this, how is it that they are going to interpret it? Is it doing justice to the work that you have done? Is it to that level even? And again, to get that exposure and to get that benchmarking, go and look at curated works and just Behance. Anything that's up there. I think okay, Yashwant has a question right now. I think we can get that, take that. Yeah, Yashwant,
yes, yes,
what's up?
yes.
Yeah, sir. Sir, my question is that
Hmm.
how much the aesthetic will play the role in the design, as we make the design for the common peoples, not for the designers only. So, how much it should relate?
Yeah. So
We are not making
the
designs
role of
for
aesthetic.
designers. We are not making it
I
for
mean,
the
like,
design.
I think the question he was asking is that we are not actually making it the
Yeah,
designs for.
no,
So
not
we are
making for
making,
design,
yeah,
common peoples.
yeah.
Yeah.
We are making it for common people. So does aesthetic matter in that scenario? Is his question.
It does. It definitely does. See, the thing is, consciously, even you're going to pick out something that looks much better. That is what pulls you in. You might not be thinking about it, but that's where you're gonna go. Let's take off maybe, let's say there's a cafe. There are a lot of street stall cafes out there, right?
Yeah.
That also serves the same food. It's just doesn't function. Maybe the menu is just exactly the same, but you would
Yeah,
still prefer
that's
to.
one thing that I think about is that I think we spoke about this also. See,
Mm-mm.
uh, a common man, it actually prioritizes aesthetics beyond function, right? In most of the
Mm-mm.
cases, see, let's say if I've noticed this, like say when you are going to a store, right? When you are walking into maybe a furniture store or something like that, right? You're seeing a lot of furniture. So you're going to buy furniture for your home, right? What is that attracts you first? Is it the function or the look and feel of it?
It's always a look. How does it look like?
It's always the look, right? It's always
That
the look
is.
that actually attracts. And then they think about, okay, is it functional? So they are going to sit on it later and then
Mhm.
look at how comfortable that is, right? Can I then they think about the standard. Can I actually take it inside my home through my small door, right? That's the standards, right? Is this the standard size of my sofa and all that stuff? So the first thing that I always think about is the aesthetics, right? How it actually looks, how attractive is this thing, right? Then they think about all the other factor. Is it useful? Is it any product that you think about it? Any product.
Mhm.
The look actually matters a lot, right? How is it looks to you? See, the if you are going to watch a movie, right? Maybe remember, like, think about a longer period. Like right now, I think a lot of people are actually depending on reviews and stuff like that. Let's think about a time where there were no reviews on social media, right? The thing that attracted people to the movies was basically its poster, right? The poster, the design of the poster that actually attracted people into it. So it was just the aesthetic, it was not functional, it didn't actually tell you the story, it didn't actually do anything beyond that, right? It was just the look and feel, and we were actually attracted by the aesthetics of that, and we were assuming the genre of the film, and we were going there. There was nothing else there, everything else was a secret, right?
Mhm.
So it is still aesthetic that matters a lot, right? It is for and definitely for regular people. I think for designers, it doesn't matter that much. Um, but because designers can figure out what is function quickly, right? So, for instance, if I am given a tool, right, that we could actually, let's think about Chat GPT, for instance. Um, I don't care about the aesthetics of Chat GPT, right? We want to use it just for the function. I don't care how it actually looks like, or we don't care when we were using Midjourney earlier, right? We were
Yeah.
actually using Discord. We
Okay.
never thought about, okay, how aesthetic that interface is, how the UI is, and all that. Designers doesn't care about it. We just want things to be produced, right? We just want it to be made, and we don't care how raw that thing is. Actually, aesthetics matters to regular people. The common people who actually judge things based on how the cover looks. Never judge a book based on its cover, right? That's a saying. That saying is there because everybody will judge a book based on its cover,
Mhm.
right? So aesthetics is the most important aspect when it comes to regular people. That actually matters a lot, right? A lot. So you might ignore it, but it matters a lot. Okay. Um, that is the reason why we said that. See, your aesthetics is going to form your sense, right? How you actually identify good and bad things. And that is one reason that told you that in India we have a lot of good things around us, but equally bad things around us, right? So we cannot actually claim the best aesthetic sense in the world, right? But if you go to a slightly developed nation, I'm not talking about US, but I'm talking about somewhere like France, right? Spain, Italy, um, even to an extent Japan, right? Just thinking about Tokyo and all that. If you're going there, right? See, every kid who is born into that country, right? They are surrounded by good stuff wherever they look. It's like good music, good posters, good the automobile design which is out there, right? The colors of the vehicles that they see there. Um, Everywhere they look, there's like good color pairing, good typography, good music, good movies. They're surrounded by that. When they grew up, they have that default aesthetic capability, right? And we have that challenge. I mean, I faced it. I am a person who actually went through that when I went to Australia to study graphic design, right? Because I had all this bad exposure in me, and when I went there, I was made fun by my teachers, uh, the classmates, and all that. They were making fun of my design choices. They're making fun of my typography choices. They were making fun of my color choices. Um, I went through all of that without realizing what is actually wrong, right? I'm doing something, but what is wrong? But then I realized that, okay, this is the difference. This is something which is there. So it involuntarily, I mean, without we knowing it, we are depending too much on aesthetics outside, right? So we will form that, and that's a very dangerous habit when you, especially, are becoming a designer, right? And now the major thing is that current, let's say 2 3 years, right? With the internet and all those things, which is becoming very really popular right now, design is global, right? So if somebody design makes something in Italy, we are able to see that in the next minute out there. So people actually know, people are well aware that what is good design. So I'm pretty confident that the students of design doesn't know like what is trendy design, but regular people knows what is trendy design. Right, you have noticed that, right? See, because they are on social media all the time, they are actually, in these places where all the trends are happening and all those things. Common people are aware what is good design. Like if you just talk to random people, if and say that, uh, what is a good typeface, they might actually ask it better, where students who are coming to design might not have that background. I've noticed that also recently. So I think it is high time that you actually step up, right? If you want to satisfy the common person, you have to put in a lot of effort right now. It's not like 10 years back and all that you produce something, give it to them, they are happy. It's not the way it happens, right? You try talking to a business owner and you design a logo for them, right? If they are trendy enough, right, they will know a bad logo just like that. Right? They will say that, okay, we will not accept this thing. So your clients might be more, and that should never happen, but that is happening currently. The clients are not happy with the design, the quality of designs that the designers are able to supply to them, because most of the designers are not aware what exactly is happening in the industry, and these business owners are aware because they are doing the competitor study, they are actually studying the market, they are looking at other similar products, so we know the standards and qualities of the other logos and brands which are similar to that. But design doesn't do any kind of research, and they are still, stuck in Photoshop and Illustrator, and okay, I can design a logo like that, right? So it's super important, guys. Super important. Okay.
See, even in terms of the common people he's talking about, those common people are living in those areas where this matters a lot. So that if you are not able to catch up to that, it means that you've not gone and explored that. You're not being the common person in that area. Even the furniture store that he was talking about, the designs that's coming out there, maybe in fashion or product design anywhere.
Yeah.
If you go and you are exposed to it, you would also get to know, like, okay, these are the standards. This is what people are expecting. Because whoever is interested in that, they would be continuously seeing something like it. So if you're making something that's not aesthetically as benchmark to that, then they wouldn't go for it.
I think that
As
that's
simple as
also
that.
the problem, right? We are sort of misjudging the common people here.
Yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah, we're just taking that, okay, the common people doesn't care. Like, common people care. They know a lot of stuff. So always think about that, right? The common people are better than designers all the time. I mean, common people are better than me, Mohit, all of you. Better. They know much more stuff than we do, right? So we need to catch up to that, and we need to actually say that, okay, this is what I can, do right now for you. So people usually met just like common people doesn't know about design. We can actually give it to them. So if it is like an expert person, we need to actually create more designs and all that. That's not the way that world works right now. Even kids right now these days, right? The kind of TV shows, the kind of brands that they're using, they are exposed to a lot of high quality stuff at this time. So they know what is a good logo. That I told you about this session that I conducted long back, right? It's been 3 4 years, right? I went to an international school and I conducted a session for fifth grade students, right? Fifth grade students. The amount of knowledge that they have about things that is happening, right? About graphic design, about UX design, about the apps out there. Uh, it is insane, right? Fifth grade students, fifth standard students. And I was sort of like, oh my God. I was thinking like, okay, and the introduction ruined it. Like, the faculty introduced me like, okay, he's Mahesh. He usually teaches for MSc students and all that. So he agreed to keep this topic very simple and all that. And I just started with something simple. Then these kids started interacting with me. I said that my MSc students will not ask questions like this. I need to step up my game and I need to actually talk about more complex theories to them. And I did it like that, right? So people are like that right now. I mean, we are making or we are sort of sitting in a false judgment saying that, we know much better than the common people about design and things like that, right? That's not true. They know about design, they know about photography, they know about movie making, they know about everything right now, right? Than the experts in that field. So if we think that I'm an expert, I used to be an expert 10 years back, so I will always be an expert is not a concept that you cannot trust. Right? People are growing immensely, so we have to catch up to that. Right? So it's a struggle every day.
Yep, yep. I hope that answers your question, Yashwant.
Yeah, sir.
It
But not
does.
but not full satisfactory, but okay.
No, you can always ask the follow up. I mean, what
Yeah.
is it that you are doubtful about? Ask us.
Sir, still as a normal instinct, we human beings focus more towards the aesthetics more than design. Some of the best intricate logos the people can't identify. They can only see the simple the Apple logo. They are attracted more towards that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. See, one other question is that who is the common person that you're talking about here?
Sir, normally other than
Normally,
designers.
who? Yeah.
Who is, yeah.
How many common people that you know right now? See, this definitely depends on that, right? So that's what I'm saying. Like when you're saying or when you're actually taking the side of common people, right? Which is that? Which is that set of people that you're talking about right now?
Because what we talked about is right now how we framed it was the target audience. Who is
Yeah.
it that it's been
The
made for?
target audience, if we are misjudging them, so if we are saying that, if you are actually saying that common people will not understand these logos and all that, right?
Mm-hmm.
We need to have proof that common people doesn't understand it. But that is not the scenario based on our understanding of the world right now. So you are saying that, the common people doesn't understand it. So you are sort of actually, this is your opinion, right? This is your opinion regarding common people, right? Are you there?
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
yeah, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yes. Mm.
how can you actually say that that is correct? That is the main thing, right? How can you say that the majority of
Sir,
common people
everybody thinks
understand?
the same way
Mhm.
as I am thinking. Uh,
No, they don't.
How
I,
will
I,
you?
I, I mean,
No, that is what I'm saying. No, they don't think the same way that you are. That's what we are. That
See,
is the point that we
what
are
happened
getting.
right now
So
is,
let's say when you're,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, no.
sir,
you are basically identifying yourself as a common man and you're talking your
Mhm.
perspective, right? So you are saying that everybody thinks like that. How did you get that data? Did you actually talk to everybody in this world?
no, sir. In that, not the perspective of the or design. I'm thinking. I'm telling in the perspective of aesthetics.
Yeah,
It's a
exactly.
normal instinct.
So
Like
when you're
when we are thirsty, we drink the water. Like that.
okay,
What I'm
okay,
saying. In the same
ah,
way, the people approach in their ways. Everybody approach
hmm,
in their ways.
hmm.
Uh, what I am going to say in my
I
perspective
got
is
it. I got it. See,
uh,
even when you're saying that everybody has their own way of approaching things, right?
yes.
So, if that is the case, also, is the whole point of conversation is that aesthetics matters to people, right? So generally, aesthetic is something which actually matters to the majority of it. If it's good aesthetics, people will appreciate it more. If it's bad aesthetics, the majority will say no to that product, right? That is how the world works generally. But when you're saying that common people doesn't actually think like that, and you everybody thinks like that and all that stuff, there should be some proof, right? That you should have gathered that data from somewhere.
Or maybe that's you heard it from somebody, that you've heard other people
Could
talking
be.
like this way. Is
Majority
that
of people
something that
actually
you make
think in
of?
their way. See, majority of people doesn't think in that way. The majority of people actually think in one way, right? That is why we are able to sort of say that people actually, when we consider or when we talk about psychiatry or when you talk about psychology of human beings, right? There is one common factor there. Otherwise, we will not be able to treat or do anything for anybody, right? We will not be, we will never be able to create a phone for people. We have to call each individual and then design a phone for each one separate, right? That's not how we do it, right? We basically take a bunch and we create a product for them that everyone appreciates, right? Or we create a television. A television is a product that we designed. Everybody who uses a television appreciates that and uses it, right? Every user there. That's the majority of people, right? That is how we actually see people. It's a mentality of people when we take it like this. What does the majority do, right? So when they are actually talking about, when, especially when it comes to design, I'm not talking about psychology or psychiatry at this point, but again, when we are actually making any sort of assumptions, we need to sort of think of them, right? We have to consider the user and the user base as a whole. We cannot design something specifically for people. I mean, people will have different thoughts, different ideas, and all that, but they have a mentality, right? They have a collective mentality, and that is what we are designing for, right? So, in the collective mentality, aesthetics matters, right? Because otherwise, that term would have been coined, right? It's something that doesn't exist. Nobody will actually talk about aesthetics at all, right? What is the point of aesthetics? In any product for that matter, right? Any product that you see in that matter, what is the point of aesthetics? What is the function of aesthetics? What do you think?
Yes, one.
Uh, Sir, it gives some satisfaction.
No,
Uh,
it's not about satisfaction.
Okay, I see a
yeah, we buy some
okay.
color clothes, so it satisfies our the temporary mood.
No, it doesn't.
No, that's not aesthetics, right? That's not aesthetics. That's not the function of the aesthetics. See, let's say, um,
Think about it. What does aesthetic say? What is aesthetic about? What is that
Which
something?
is looking
what
appealing, or yeah, which
Uh-huh.
is very catchy.
There's
okay, that
definitely an
appeals to
appeal
you,
there.
right? Yeah.
Sir, also very authentic also, sir. Authentic, and it should be catchy also.
It doesn't. Authenticity has nothing to do with aesthetics.
It just needs to be
What do you
appealing.
mean
Yeah,
by aesthetics, right? Yeah.
should be look like subtle and appealing. Like in that itself, we can tell what we are telling, or we can tell a story in that itself.
And sir, it should be attractive also, sir.
Okay. So other than being attractive, what else did you say? No, I mean, like, it should be attractive also, is what you said. That's the reason I asked him that question. Okay. So, see, aesthetics basically, what is the function of aesthetics? So why do you care about aesthetics in anything that we are doing? See, aesthetics is a superficial appeal of anything, right? It doesn't have to do with the function, right? Um, it is basically how it actually presents to another person, right? See, uh, when you're actually going out there, it's when you're dressing with a nice shirt and you're wearing all the accessories and all that, and you're going out there. The first thing that they see is your superficial appeal, right? The moment you start speaking, they are going to know more about you, right? So that is where your function actually happens, right? Your standards, your function, all those things comes later after that. Aesthetics is the superficial appeal of you, right? How attractive that thing is, how appealing that those things are, right? So it's not about the authenticity of the product. It is the superficial appeal that basically attracts people into something, right? Pulls people into a message, pulls people into a brand, things like that. So that is one of the reasons the equation of good design was function, aesthetics, and standards, right? All of this needs to come together to be a good design. Okay, so aesthetics is really, really, really critical. All of these three things are really critical: function, aesthetics, and standards. But you cannot ignore aesthetics. And aesthetics, we are not designing it for experts. We are not designing it for a particular strata of audience. This is for everybody. Everybody who is the user of products that you are designing, aesthetics matters, right? When you ignore aesthetics, it will create a lot of issues. It will create you know see there is a law called aesthetic usability, right? This is psychology, right? Aesthetic usability is a psychological theory. Things that looks good, right, works better is a common belief that regular people have. If a thing looks good, it will work good. It's an assumption that people are. It doesn't have to be always true, but people believe it like that. If a person looks good, that might be a good person. Is something that we assume. It does. It is not fact, right? It's not a factual thing, but we assume that that is called aesthetic usability. When we see a good-looking car, we sort of assume that it drives really well as well. Most of the cars doesn't, right? If the car looks good, it has a lot of problems inside in the function of it. If there are slight mistakes in the usability, people, right? So if our design is aesthetic, if us, right, there is that. So the basic example, like we were talking about, I think iOS or something, where I think Apple phones, right? Uh, a lot of people are actually buying iPhones because of the look and feel of it, the aesthetic appeal of the whole product, right? They're not bothered about the function that it's offering. See, functionally speaking, I think the Android might work better than an iPhone right now. If you are just purely about the function of a phone, right? If you want to just tap every aspect of the functionality that the phone is providing, I think that might actually give you more options there. A lot of people, we are basically going for it because it looks really neat. It looks really cool. It really looks the product, the build quality, the CMF of it. Uh, it works really well. The color, material, and finish looks really good. So it sort of makes people believe that since it looks so good, it should function really well. It functions really well. I'm not saying that it's wrong, but even minor mistakes that Apple is doing, we are able to forgive that because of that thing, right? See, when Apple launched iPhone 16, saying that it has Apple intelligence, right? And it launched, everyone went and bought it. And they realized that Apple intelligence is not out yet. It will come in the future, right? Nobody actually made a big deal out of it. They sort of accepted it. Imagine any other brand doing this thing. Right? They would have been destroyed.
Yeah.
Not even exist in the market, right? So that actually is the whole idea, right? So when you're looking at aesthetics, it actually enhances the other functions of the product. It's not like something that you can ignore. When you are making an aesthetic design, it definitely supports the other two things, the functions and the standardization of that product, right? When I'm saying product, it could be any design that you're making, right? So I think that actually helps. Was there any other question? I think there was.
I think there's two more questions coming in from Aviknay and Aparna. I think Aviknay came in first. Aviknay, are you there? Is he there? Hello?
I think Apitna versus.
Aparna?
No, it's not versus. It is HS. I thought.
Hello, sir.
Hello?
Hey.
Yeah, we can hear you. What was your question?
Yes, sir. I have come across some people who are my clients, but they need more than aesthetics, something which is more complicated, like if when it comes to logo or brochure and all, if we are giving it as an aesthetically, but they don't want it like that. So that's what like I was asking that how aesthetics is important to the majority of people. Don't know the importance of aesthetics or standard quality. They just need to convey their content only.
See,
So
this is one thing that I want to make it very, very sure. See, the clients that you're working with, right, might not be always the best clients that you will get. So, especially when you're beginning with graphic design and all that stuff, um, the clients, they you will get a low, let's say you're working with clients who are actually of a low caliber. You cannot actually understand the market completely and all that, and they might actually want logos in their choices, right? Their aesthetic preferences, which might be bad. I have met a lot of students who came up with the same problem also. They design logos, but the client actually wants it in a completely different way, which is bad. So if they go and say the client that your logo is actually bad, they might lose the job. So these designers who are scared of that will actually do the project, right? And they will get the money that they want. So see, what if, think about it, what if you are not actually that hungry for this project? Right. You're not starving for this kind of cheap projects that the clients are giving, and your ambition is to actually work for better clients. How will you work on yourself? Right. See, definitely, if you think that okay, graphic design is something that I can do, I just need to replicate what the client asks me to do, and that is what your portfolio says, then definitely the clients will use you in the way that they want. Right, that's not what a graphic designer's job is. A graphic designer's job is to find the solution that solves the client's problem, right? And it's in the beginning, it is very difficult to get to that clients unless you have a really good portfolio. So if you work on yourself and you can place yourself into that level, like I'm a graphic designer, but I will only take good clients. I am going to evaluate my clients and I'm going to take that. You will reach that liberty if your portfolio is that good. Right, it is not going to happen in one day. It's not going to happen in 1 week or 1 year. It is going to be difficult. But there are people who have done that. Right, they will not work with these bad clients. If the clients doesn't understand this, they'll say that no, I will not do this project. I will actually work with a client who understands me. And see, another thing which is actually the truth is that those kind of clients, right, who wants these cheap logo stuff and all that thing, that is thankfully that they are going away. They are nowhere there in the market right now. If you think about it, a lot of these clients actually want good logos, and they're looking for designers who are able to do it. Because I have met, we all always receive a lot of logo client requests and all that, and I've been sending students to do that. The clients are rejecting those students with who are producing this basic mundane logos and all that, and they want, and they will basically show us a mood board that okay, this is how the logo should be. I want my brand to look like this, right? They have that vision, and they have a lot of people like that, which is out there right now. It is only, the problem is that the students are not able to reach them, right, to that market. To get to that vicinity and visibility, you need to have that amount of work. You need to showcase that I'm capable of doing works like that. You have to work on your portfolio, make sure that you have a lot of that quality work out there, and they're putting it out there, right? So if let's say a bad client comes to your portfolio, they might leave, right? It will filter out bad clients just like there, because they see logos that they can relate to, they might leave. They might ask you to do a logo, but they want it in style, in this particular bad style that you were mentioning about. You can reject that client. You will get another client. I would want to show the example of Shivani at this point. Let's see, Instagram. Shivani is an Insta, right? Buy More Studio.
Yes. Buy More Studio.
Yeah, Buy More Studio. Okay.
Should be the first one.
There's nothing is loading.
Yeah, internet. Wait, is Insta slow or the internet is slow? No,
Buy More Studio. It is yeah. So I want to talk about her, right? See, she's a student. She's your senior, I think, super senior, right? Okay. Previous batch. So she, after studying this program, she actually went with freelancing. But see, she's a student who has like high IQ about design, and she knows a lot of stuff about design. She's really good at aesthetics. Choices are really good. Very strong designer, right? Very strong design student. So she went down and she was looking for setting up her own brand. So she says that vibrant brand. So she wanted to create branding solutions for other clients and things like that. So initially, she also faced the same thing, and she went texting me saying that, see, this client is there, but the quote is very less, the money that they are offering is very less, and they are actually involving in a lot of design, and they are asking for bad designs to be done, right? So I've asked her, so are you actually looking to make some quick cash right now? She said, no, I don't care about the money right now. I just want to build my brand. Then I said that reject them, right? Don't do those works. Just ignore them. Look for the right clients, right? You just give it some time, but in that process, keep populating your Instagram with the level of quality that you can deliver. And she basically did that, right? So she started building her Instagram profile with the kind of stuff which is internationally popular, right? Design projects, branding projects, and works like that, which are internationally popular stuff, right? So she did it for, designer brief and all that stuff. She went to these sites and she started building brands based on those briefs, and she started putting it out there. Then she was able to actually reach other clients because she got a lot of popularity with these things, right? The people, it actually attracted a lot of brands. So there was a lot of visibility for her work, and the client started reaching out to her saying that I like the kind of style that you're doing, so I need a logo in that style, right? So they started approaching her for the style that she's capable of pulling out, and she started delivering. And she step by step she grew. She set up this thing, and she's in a position where she actually takes, I think, 3 projects in a month, right?
Yep.
Yeah, she takes only 3 projects in a month. She actually says that 3 slots are available. At the beginning of every month, she says that 3 slots are available. You can book it. The clients can book. If it is beyond 3, she will not take it. She will not take it in that month, right? She will actually postpone it to next month if they are ready to wait. She'll only take that. Once if there's only 2 slots filled, she will put that 1 slot as pending. If anybody wants it, they can take it and all that. So the kind of work that she does, the kind of reach that she has right now, and the way that she built her profile, right? Nobody would dare go to her and say that, can you design a logo with flowers and red colors and all that stuff, right? They will not, right? Because she defined her as a designer who does this. It actually takes effort. It takes a lot of work, a lot of knowledge, but you can break that. You can actually break from that basic chain, and then you broke down into, you can actually go beyond that, and you will be able to build and settle a brand, right? And you can control it. See, she's in the first phase of her growth, and I'm pretty sure that she's going to grow like really big, right? And we have been talking about, like me and Mohit, we have been talking about how she sort of shaped her up with the knowledge that she has. So it's not easy, right? To create a brand, to become popular like this, to step by step control the amount of clients that you have, the budget that she can quote right now, and all that. She can reach in one day. There was a lot of effort behind it, but this is definitely possible. She was a student just like you, who studied with here, maybe 1 year back, and she is able to do this right now. So this is the motivation that you need. Right? This is the only motivation that you need, and you should be able to do that. Right? So it's not easy, but it is possible. Totally depends on you. Okay.
So, Apan, does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes. Okay, cool. I think we have one more question from Abhigna. He's not able to, he or they are not able to go come to the.
I think there was the chat, right?
Yeah, it's in the chat. His question is that when he's finding something for inspiration, but instead of getting inspired, it will give him an overwhelming feeling. Okay.
That's a very relevant question. That's a very I would want to. I want to hear your opinion on how you address this issue.
I don't actually usually get this. I just see something that's very interesting. It makes me more excited to just go and figure that out. That's what ends up happening.
There could be like a feeling of overwhelming that can happen, right? When you see some amount of like very good, and if you're a total beginner, right, you're going to a site and you see a lot of works which are like really, really, really beautiful, but you are sort of afraid. You start questioning your capability of pulling off something like that, right? And that instead of actually getting inspired, you are actually getting into that. Okay, I will never be able to do this. So, is there a way that you can actually come out of that fear?
I think first of all, acknowledge the fact where you are and what you're seeing. It's the distance is a whole lot here. The person who has done this has actually put in a lot of effort. They have the cognitive load to understand these things. That's why they're able to pull it off. So it's not a fair comparison for you to make that. That I, as a beginner, would I be able to do it right now? That's not going to happen. But if you do, given the time, so look at what they are making and try to figure out what is their process. The more you know about it, what's instead going to happen is all those years that they've put in to understand these stuff, and if they've shared it anywhere, you can just bridge that gap of 5 years with just maybe a 20-minute talk. If you just sit
See,
there
I'll tell you something very simple, right? So say
yeah.
you just learn driving, right? And you're taking your car on the first day to the road, right? You're going there. Imagine this, all of these cars are there in the road, right? They are very expert. They have been driving their car from a long time and they're driving and all that. You are a beginner, it's the first day. If you get scared, you will never be able to drive the car ever again.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. You're stuck there.
True.
You're sort of like say, okay, I will never be able to do this. I'm getting out of this. I knew a lot of people who quit driving because of that. That one
Tough.
day, right? It takes that one day. But if you are able to actually power through that fear, right? You are able to do that, okay, I'm starting. I will become an expert like them, right? I will be able to drive along with them. I might even be able to overtake them one day, right? So if you start thinking like that, and you start driving, right? This will become a thing of the past. You will not even worry about it. When you see your work, now it's very, I mean, I will also get scared when I see like sometimes I see like Mohit actually shares inspirations that see on the internet and all that, right? He share a video or something like that. When I see it, sometimes I'll get scared. Oh my God, I will never be able to think of something like this, right? But that actually drives, that doesn't actually scare me. I will maybe experiment something on that day itself that okay, I want to try something like this and make sure that I am able to do something which is closer to that. I might actually get closer to that in a couple of days or maybe trials. But most of the, when we are actually facing that, I will never get scared when you're seeing works in Pinterest or maybe every day it is actually being featured and all that. We don't feel scared. We actually feel excited. Okay, this is what is happening, and we are able to understand that. So we are in the right track. Right. That's an exercise, and you will definitely get there. Right. It's not going to be the initial thing. Maybe as a beginner, this will be there. But if you get scared and if you get out of the car right now, you will never be able to get back into it.
True.
Right. So just keep driving. Say sorry to the people that you are hitting on the way, but you know, like that's it. That's the only thing that you can do, right? So just keep driving. Don't even think about what others actually care right now. And uh, this thing, like when you are seeing new kind of stuff, be open to that, right? Be open to that. Don't say that, it's too hard and I will not do it and all that stuff. Don't give up. Don't give up. That's the only thing, right? Uh, you might not get inspired in the beginning. Definitely not. You will go to a curated list of things and you'll be wondering, like, okay, what the hell is this? I don't understand anything, which is fine. But you know that you're looking in the right spaces. Eventually, you try to actually understand it. Every day, go there, understand it. Um, most of the time, when we take a book to read, right? This has happened. If you are stuck in the first page, and there are many people who never actually make it past the first page of a book. If they do, they will finish the book. Correct. That's how the psychology of book works, and that's the same thing which is it's the initial fear. But if you are able to conquer that fear, you'll actually love that experience, right? Like the amount of work which is being thrown at you, the challenges which are being thrown at you, the amount of inspirations that you can find and then implement it on your design, and all that. That's an exciting thing. That's a very exciting thing. So learning is actually exciting when you break that fear and say that this is all I'm actually open to all of this and then I can do all of this, right? That is the only thought that you need to have.
Know that that fear is not something that's going to be very constant. It's gonna stay for a phase, and then
Yeah, it is
you're
going
gonna
to
get
go.
over that.
Yes, yes.
I
I,
think
I think we were recently, I was inspired by when Mohit actually showed me this app, right? What was that? The 3D painting thing?
3D painting
Feather,
thing.
feather, feather.
Feather. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, feather.
Feather. So the Feather app, it actually works on an iPad, and he basically
Yeah.
showed it to me. It is where you can take your pen and you can sketch a 3D model out of it just by sketching it. So you just paint it, and then the complexity of the whole thing coming together, right? And we were looking at one preset work, which was actually came with that software, and
Mhm.
we were zooming in, and then we were zooming out, and we were looking at the details of all this stuff. And I was not able to comprehend the amount of time that the person spent in there and then made all that thing. We were able to export that, open that in Blender and see the details there also. So that is something that has scared me. And I was like, oh my God, this is too much. This is too overwhelming. And I'm like, getting out. But when we actually talk about it, when you talk about that, if I was discovering it all by myself, I would have been like really scared. But then Mohit was with me and we were talking about it. We were actually discussing it and we sort of like found our own logic to approach that. Right. So why was this? Like, why was this? Why didn't this tool do it? Why didn't this do it? Why did grease pencil and pencil that is not doing the same thing? We were able to discuss a lot of things, and then it actually simplified this thing. Okay, this is not that hard. If you think about it, it's pretty simple, right? So that is one thing that you can try. Like you talk to somebody, right? You communicate when you're seeing works, and you talk to somebody saying that I'm not able to understand this, right? I'm not able to. This is too much for me. Can you help me out, right? They will help you out. Okay.
True. I think it's one of the other factors. So, like, if you are sitting with a lot of cluster of thoughts and if that's not very apparent to you, that's where you feel like too overwhelmed about it. Let it out.
True. True.
Let it out. Make
Yeah.
it very evident, and then see where it leads you.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
Cool.
So there
So
was one more question. Right? The last question is that all?
I don't think we covered all the questions.
You got all the questions. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Mohit. Thank you, all of you, for attending the session. And definitely, there will be more sessions like this, more content like this, and we can cycle, right? We will add more students into the discussion panel. Right now, it was just two of us. We will definitely bring in a couple of you for the next discussions. We'll increase this, or maybe make this circle a little wider. Definitely, I want to invite more people into this as well, right? So we'll do that, and thank you for attending, and hope this was helpful and gave you a lot of insights. And please do work on those points, right? I'll share this presentation with you so that you can go over
Keep the
it.
discussion going.
And
I think reach out to us
yeah, keep the
back over
discussion.
this.
Yes, we can. Yeah. We'll be there in Slack. So if you want to converse with us, please do that. Okay. Thank you, guys. Have a nice day. Bye bye. Take care.
Thank you so much, sir. It's really helpful for me, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Ravi.
Thank
All
you,
right
sir.
then. Bye.
Bye bye. Take care.